My twin sister has to compete with me in everything. When we were set up on blind dates, I chose a man with potential, while she went for the flashy tycoon. After marriage, that tycoon turned out to be a chauvinist. My sister suffered at home with no say in anything, and in the end, he went bankrupt, leaving them penniless. My husband, the one with potential, started from scratch, worked steadily, and made his fortune, turning me into the envy of all as a wealthy socialite, consumed by jealousy. My sister killed me at the company's IPO gala. When I opened my eyes again, we were back at our blind date. My sister immediately went for the promising talent, while I headed for the nouveau riche. With a cold expression, he told me he had the final say on everything at home, and that my monthly allowance would be a mere $3 million. I'm absolutely stunned, even if you took $2 million off the table. You couldn't find another boss like this anywhere. I've had more than my fill of hardship from my past life. 1. Before I could even shake off the dizziness from the blood loss, my sister had already darted like an arrow toward the shy boy in the corner. She laughed maniacally. A harmonious marriage turns hardship into sweetness. All the good days ahead will be mine. After glancing around, I quietly walked over to the nouveau riche guy. This gentleman seems quite fine to me. My sister looked at me with utter disdain. Fine, my foot. He's a chauvinist pig. He's nothing but a pile of stinking money. Funny you should say that. After being dirt poor in my last life, I'm determined to find someone wealthy this time around. As I placed the crush sticker on Zachary's chest, I realized he towered over me by more than a head. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and that rugged vibe, exactly my type. My face flushed crimson as I hurried away. He had barely taken 2 steps when an iron grip clamped onto his arm. His face was ice cold. Let's get one thing straight from the start. I'm a bit old-fashioned. I call all the shots at home, and the most I can give you each month is $3 million. I was stunned, looking at the distinct knuckles of the fingers and the clearly defined muscles of the arm holding me. I felt my heart beat a little faster. Sis, you're living the high life with that meal. You're turning down such a rugged, manly guy and all that money, just for some so-called marital bliss and sweet nothings. Little does she know that when poverty comes in the door, love flies out the window. She only sees the enviable parts of my life, not my hands chapped from the winter cold or my skin peeling from the summer sun. She doesn't see me racing my scooter for miles in the rain to secure stock, nor can she fathom the relentless grind of my dawn-to-dusk routine that's gone on for over a decade. Little did she know that even the deepest affection can be worn away by the grind of daily life. Just when you've finally nurtured your fruit tree to bear fruit, someone else will come along to reap the harvest. I've had enough of this miserable life. In this lifetime, I'll make sure you get a taste of this so-called marital bliss. 2. On my very first date with Zachary, he wrinkled his nose in disgust. What you're wearing is so tacky. What kind of outfit is this? I don't like it. Don't ever wear it again. He said it loudly, in a commanding and utterly dismissive tone. Drawing sidelong glances from people around us, I felt pretty uncomfortable. He acted as if he hadn't seen a thing, casually tossing me a card. There's about 300,000 in there. The pin is my birthday. Go buy yourself some decent clothes. And you know what? I suddenly felt a whole lot better. But looking good is such a subjective thing. What I think looks good, he might not agree with. And my opinion doesn't count for anything. It's his opinion that matters. So I had a sudden brainwave and scoured all of his social media accounts. This included, but wasn't limited to, Douyin, Kuaishou, Xiaohongshu, and Weibo. I pieced together the type of person he might like, then played to his tastes. I hired a professional stylist to put together over a dozen outfits tailored to that preference. Not knowing his birthday, I got in touch with the organizers of the matchmaking event. I mustered up the shameless audacity I used to deal with clients at work. Finally got his birthday, and successfully swiped the card. I ran into my sister out shopping with her promising catch just as I was coming back from picking up my clothes. She was hanging off Caden's arm, looking exceptionally cozy with him. Oh my, he's already dictating what you can wear and you're not even married yet. You really are living a stifled life. Not like my darling, he indulges me in everything. I let my embarrassment show on my face, allowing her to revel in her smug satisfaction. Honestly, she's job hunting herself right now. Shouldn't she know you need to wear a uniform for work? Even a job paying $3,000 a month comes with a laundry list of requirements. For my $3 million gig, it's only normal to have a few extra uniforms ready, right? The most important thing for a person is to learn to see things from another's perspective. 3. We got married in no time. As both my sister and I feared that long delays might bring trouble, Zachary's betrothal gifts alone amounted to $88 million, not to mention the countless pieces of gold jewelry. The wedding procession, a fleet of limited edition luxury cars, escorted me to his 2,000 square meter mansion in Kyoto. My sister had it a bit rough in comparison. The wedding cars were rented, the wedding dress was rented, even the marital home was rented. As she was leaving, she grumbled resentfully, "What's so great about having money? You'll lose all your dignity in your future life. That's hilarious." As if you'll have any dignity either, going off to work some menial job after you get married. Right after we got married, Zachary asked me to quit my job and settle into being a full-time housewife. My wife doesn't need to work, just focus on keeping the house in order. I expect to come home to a clean house, a hot meal, and a wife who smells nice. You don't need to worry about anything else. I nodded to show I understood. You get what you pay for, it's just part of the job. On the day I submitted my resignation, Zachary transferred $3 million into my account. This is for this month's living expenses. I'll probably only be back for about a week, so you better make sure I'm comfortable. I don't want to deal with anything at home. Oh, and if you get too lonely, you can get a cat or a dog. I don't mind them. While packing up my personal belongings, I was on the verge of tears. $3 million. I could roll around in it and never spend it all. No overtime. No social obligations, no office politics, and I can even keep my beloved pets. This isn't just a husband, this is my personal money god. Where on earth could you find a job this good? But in the eyes of her colleagues, it all took on a completely different appearance. They whispered among themselves, look at Giovanna, she gave up a perfectly good job to become a housewife right after getting married, completely dependent on her husband's handouts. They say she doesn't even have the freedom to choose what to wear at home, and she's not allowed to eat until her husband picks up his chopsticks, honestly, and she calls herself a college student, so short-sighted. She'll be crying her eyes out when she gets kicked to the curb. Hey. I make $3 million a month. Do you have one? That's just sour grapes. For Zachary went on a business trip barely a week after the wedding. His job keeps him constantly on the move, flying all over the place without a moment's rest. As he was leaving, he tossed me a big bunch of keys. Feel free to drive any car from my garage. Don't just mope around at home. Go shopping, get a spa treatment, enjoy afternoon tea. Do whatever makes you comfortable. Zachary's wife should live the good life. When a woman lives lavishly, it's a point of pride for her man. I looked up at him obediently, nodding like a little chick pecking at grain. After he left, I was feeling a bit lonely, so I packed my bags and headed back to my parents' place. As luck would have it, my sister and Caden were there too, freshly married and still in that blissful honeymoon phase. My sister was beaming from ear to ear as she boasted to her mom. Caden is wonderful. He cooks for me, even washes my feet. He listens to everything I say at home. He truly treats me like a queen. Seeing me return, she grew even more smug. She craned her neck to look behind me, and when she saw I was alone, she smirked. Well, coming back to your mother's house all by yourself. Didn't my dear brother-in-law accompany you? It's quite the joke for a wife to visit her parents without her husband, and look at all this stuff, you're carrying it all yourself. My husband would never let me lift a finger. He's not like that at all. I glanced at the pitiful little bag of fruit and the box of discounted milk sitting by the entryway, curling my lip in disgust. He's so broke, he probably can't afford to let you get tired. If you ran off, where would he ever find another fool like you? Mom, come help me with this. My mom hurried over to take the things, donkey hide gelatin, bird's nest, premium tea, cordyceps. My sister lost it again. Just because you have a bit of money, you have to show off. I put on an innocent face. These are just ordinary things. Just because you can't afford them doesn't mean I'm showing off. Sis, you're really being bitter, aren't you? She was left speechless by my retort, and Caden turned red and fidgeted uncomfortably. My mom stepped in to smooth things over. You're both my children, and I'd be happy even if you came empty-handed. Enough about that now. Go wash up for dinner. The atmosphere at the table was a bit awkward, so my dad, in a stroke of wisdom, tried to lighten the mood. So, when are you two planning to have kids? I'm not getting any younger, you know. I'd love to hold a grandchild. That earned him a massive eye roll from my mom. If you don't have anything nice to say, just keep it to yourself. No one thinks you're mute. My dad chuckled, and my sister immediately jumped in with a smug smile. She was speaking to my parents, but her eyes were fixed on me, a clear provocation. Caden says he'll go along with whatever I decide about having kids and when. I think we're still young and want to focus on our careers for a few more years. What about you, Giovanna? Any plans on the horizon? The words were barely out of her mouth before she covered it with her hand. Oh, listen to me. I'm being so silly. Giovanna's married into money now. Whether or not to have children probably isn't even her decision anymore. She's not like us poor folks with our carefree lives. She deliberately emphasized the word carefree. She probably doesn't realize yet that poor and carefree are fundamentally at odds with each other. I picked up a spare rib and placed it in my sister's bowl, sighing as I said, it's never easy living under someone else's thumb, but at least there's money and leisure time. No more scrambling just to get by. I suddenly changed the subject. By the way, have you paid off all those debts yet? I'd be too scared to have a kid if I still had that hanging over my head. My sister's face went pale at my words. Caden's face flushed red as he glared at me fiercely. So you think you're better than us just because you have money? Don't look down on people. I might not have much right now, but I swear I'll do everything in my power to give Jocelyn a good life. He took my sister's hand. Come on, honey, let's go. Trust me. I'll make you the happiest woman in the world. In the biting cold of a Kyoto late autumn, the two of them rode home together on a single, rickety electric scooter. My mother watched the receding figures and shook her head repeatedly. She was so easily swayed by a few sweet words from a man. She's in for a world of trouble later on. 5. My child arrived sooner than I ever imagined. Come to think of it, in my past life, my sister got pregnant around the same time. It seems our lives are still following their predetermined paths. I started to panic. In that past life, my sister ended up having 5 children. The physical discomfort, combined with my anxiety about the future, made my morning sickness much worse. In just half a month, I've already lost a noticeable amount of weight. Zachary's face darkened. You're suffering this much. If you keep vomiting like this, won't my child go hungry? I was absolutely furious. I was just about to blow up, thinking, fine, whatever, I'll do this godforsaken job. But then he shut me down with a single sentence: there's not much I can do to help, so I'll transfer the mining rights for that Inner Mongolia site to you. As compensation for your hardship, I'll make arrangements right away to get both Western and Chinese chefs, along with housekeepers, in place. You can have them make whatever you want to eat, so you can focus on resting and your pregnancy. Oh, and no more of that nail and hair salon nonsense. All right, this is my first child. And you will take good care of it. No matter what, I'll arrange the hospital, the postpartum care center, and the nanny in advance. You don't need to worry about a thing. Good grief. I was so stunned it took me a good while to recover. I nearly dropped to my knees and kowtowed with a yes, master. I knew my sister lived a life of luxury in her past life, but I never imagined it was this extravagant. Zachary, thinking I was still upset, softened his tone, a rare occurrence. I never have time for you, and all I can really offer is money. Even after the baby is born, I'll probably still be like this. I won't be much help around the house. Honestly, I feel terrible about it. No, absolutely not. This is actually perfect. Free time, plenty of money, a kid, and a husband who's never home. Could life possibly get any better? 6. When I was 5 months pregnant, my high school class monitor suddenly got in touch, saying he wanted to organize a 10-year reunion. I didn't dare agree right away. I'll have to check with my husband first, I said. There was an awkward pause on the other end of the line. For something this trivial, he replied, oh. I replied indifferently, I just do whatever he says. The class monitor fell silent. My older sister came to the gathering that day as well. We're twins. Back then, the school made an exception for us and put us in the same class. It wasn't until I arrived that I realized many of my classmates had brought their families along. After entering the workforce, class reunions really only serve 2 purposes: flaunting wealth and showing off relationships. In my past life, I came with Caden, while my sister was there alone, heavily pregnant, watching Caden dote on me, pouring my water, peeling my shrimp. She could only stare at her phone, hoping for even a scrap of a message to salvage some dignity in front of our old classmates. The other's joy only made her loneliness more stark, and someone couldn't resist a snide remark. Jocelyn, is it true you have to obey your husband's every word at home? Do you even have to wear clothes he likes? And you can't eat until he picks up his chopsticks? Oh my God, how on earth do you live like this? What's the point of having money when you have absolutely no self-respect? Seeing my classmates' mockery and how obedient Caden was to me, my sister started wishing Zachary would treat her the same way. She wanted it all: money, love, and companionship. So, as soon as she got home, she picked a fight with Zachary, and after the argument, she ran back to our parents' house to complain. She complains that Zachary is inconsiderate and doesn't care about her, asking why other husbands can manage what he can't. I'm literally dying of laughter here. How many husbands out there can provide $3 million a month? Forget dignity. I'd kneel down and hand-feed him every meal if I had to. Back to reality. I'm currently tucked away in a corner, happily admiring my little nest egg. After observing him these past few months, I've found that Zachary isn't as useless as my sister made him out to be. He is indeed domineering and overbearing, but he's not cold-hearted. He'll use his precious time off to cook me a loving dinner. And he remembers my preferences, avoiding the foods I can't eat. Even during the brief span of a single meal, his phone would ring over a dozen times. What I often saw was his furrowed brow and pensive gaze, yet my sister would still complain that he didn't do the laundry, childcare, or housework like Caden did. How can you expect an eagle soaring through the skies to crow at home every morning? My solitude feels utterly out of place amidst the laughter and cheerful chatter of others. My sister bossed Caden around without a care, as if she were desperate for everyone to see what an obedient, doting husband she had. Caden played along perfectly, all smiles and not a single complaint the whole time. Only I knew the truth behind her glamorous facade: a cramped living space, crushing debt, and a future that looked bleak. The $100,000 Caden used to marry her was borrowed, the down payment for their house was borrowed, and on top of that, they still had monthly rent to cover. My mom tried several times to talk my sister into getting a divorce, but she was utterly convinced, as if under a spell, that she and Caden would weather the storm and find happiness together. She absolutely refused to leave him. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard that. Isn't that exactly how I was back in the day? The only difference is, I was a hopeless romantic back then, while she's a hopeless dreamer, still clinging to the fantasy of one day becoming the wife of a listed company's CEO. Several women exclaimed with envy, "Jocelyn, your husband is so good to you. He's handsome, emotionally stable, and treats you like a treasure." I couldn't help but scoff. Like a treasure. Indeed, when a man has no other resources to offer his partner, emotional value becomes the most cost-effective thing he can provide. Sometimes, a simple "he's good to me" is enough for a young woman to dedicate her entire life. Seeing me laugh, my sister bristled like a ruffled fighting cock, her eyes practically shooting flames. "What are you laughing at? Don't think that just because you have a bit of money now, it's truly yours. Living a life dependent on others is hard. We women have to rely on ourselves." I nodded like a chicken pecking at grain. Yes, you're absolutely right." She continued to lecture me. "You can't spoil a man too much. If you can't keep him in check, he'll end up controlling you." I kept nodding. Right. Look at me. Even though our circumstances aren't great right now, your brother-in-law dotes on my every wish. A priceless treasure is easier to find than a devoted lover. Don't you get it? Under my sister's lead, the class reunion turned into a struggle session aimed at me. I've become the most worthless disgrace of a woman in the whole class, a useless leech living off a man. I huddled in the corner of the sofa like a quail, silently enduring their taunts, while my mind was busy. I've scrimped and saved over 10 million these past few months. What should I invest in? Zachary will go bankrupt in 10 years. Before that happens, I need to secure my own future. Suddenly, the voices stopped. A tall figure cast a shadow over me, and the air grew thick with a palpable tension. "What? Are you mute? How can you just take that kind of abuse without fighting back? You're an embarrassment. What are you standing there for? Get yourself home, now." "I'll be back once I've sorted things out here." I stared at the man in front of me, stunned. Without a word of protest, I obediently stood up and walked out, leaving only the rising tide of mocking laughter behind me. 7. The boss is here for an inspection. Everyone look sharp. I'll start assigning tasks. Nanny Wang, go buy the seafood the master likes. Nanny Zhang, hurry to the organic garden and get some freshly picked produce. Nanny Lu, please draw a bath for the master in the thermostatic tub. Set the temperature to 41.5 degrees Celsius and make sure it's ready for him to soak in the moment he returns. After making a single call to arrange everything, I stretched out comfortably in the back seat of the Rolls-Royce. Our driver, Nanny Chen, is a veteran with over 30 years behind the wheel, a self-reliant woman her whole life. She couldn't help but feel a bit indignant on my behalf. Sure, the master earns the money, provides for the household, and handles all the problems, but it's just too much that he expects you to cater to his every whim, no matter how big or small. I gazed out the window at the blur of neon lights and bustling nightlife rushing past inside. At least it's better than a man who expects us both to earn the money, both to keep the home, can't solve a single problem, and still demands I cater to his every whim. Auntie Chen was momentarily speechless. "Well, I suppose that's true," she conceded. Dinner had been ready for quite some time, but Zachary still hadn't returned. Mrs. Wang, Mrs. Zhang, Mrs. Lu, and Mrs. Chen all urged me, "Why don't you eat first, ma'am? You might not mind being hungry, but the baby in your belly certainly can't go without." I waved my hand dismissively and lay down on the sofa. Still fully dressed, might as well treat it like working overtime. It's not like I haven't done that before. By the time he came home, I had already dozed off on the sofa waiting for him, with a delicious meal I'd prepared specially for him still sitting on the table. At the sound of the door, I skipped over joyfully to greet him. "You're finally home, late at night, a warm meal, a man returning home late, and his pregnant wife who, after a hard day, had dozed off waiting for him." With all these heartwarming factors stacked up, what man could possibly resist? Who could? In that moment, the emotions in Zachary's eyes were complex: surprise, gratitude, heartache, guilt, or perhaps something else, all eventually melted into tenderness. After the meal, I wheeled him to the bath, having already prepared a change of clothes for him. They had been meticulously ironed, lightly scented, and warmed to a cozy temperature. He let out a contented sigh. "You've really worked hard." I pressed my lips together and said nothing. The meal was prepared by Auntie Wang and Auntie Zhang, and the bathwater was drawn by Auntie Lu. I didn't do a thing. What hard work indeed. 8. The next day, my high school group chat was filled with wails of despair. Several classmates who had led the charge in mocking me all lost their jobs on the same day. Looking at the 999 plus unread messages, I didn't need to guess who was behind it. It reminded me of my last life, when Caden and I were also inexplicably fired around this time, with our backs against the wall. That's what forced us to start our own business, so that's the reason. But I never said anything bad about Jocelyn back then. Could it be her? Was she already starting to hate me at that point? Before I knew it, I was at my due date. Thanks to the power of money, Zachary arranged a top-tier medical team and a royal postpartum care center for me, burning through over 100,000 a day. But he was stuck overseas and couldn't make it back. On the day I gave birth, my parents and a whole crowd of relatives showed up, surrounding me in layer upon layer until there was no room to move. There were so many faces I couldn't even put names to, people I'd never met in my life, yet there they were, all warm and fussing over me, as I gradually realized the hospital was filled only with doctors, nurses, and my postnatal care team. Discordant whispers began to surface amidst all the flattery. For such a major event as Giovanna giving birth, how can the father not even show his face? Sigh, they're unhappy it's a girl, aren't they? Looks like she'll have to try again. Families like that are dead set on having a son. Jocelyn might look all glamorous on the outside, but she's actually quite pitiful. She'd have been better off marrying an ordinary man and living a simple life. You're absolutely right. I think Jocelyn and her husband are a lovely couple. My sister sat to the side. Smiling shyly, she gently placed a hand on her abdomen and shook her head modestly. Caden isn't the most accomplished man. I just appreciate how well he treats me. If a big boss like him is not accomplished, then what does that make the rest of us? Beggars. My sister kept brushing it off, but her smile grew even brighter. He's just a scrap collector, hardly some big shot. He's up at dawn and works till dusk, hustling with all that junk. It's hard-earned money, that's all, but I believe one day, he'll make something of himself. He's going to do great things. At that very moment, a breeze parted the clouds veiling the sun, and a single ray of light fell upon her exquisite manicure, making it shimmer. In my past life, I never got my nails done when I was pregnant. It's not that Caden won't let me do it. It's that I have to work every day, and getting my nails done is just too much of a hassle. Look at my sister now. With her delicate fingers and fair skin, she's clearly a young lady who's never had to lift a finger for housework. Starting from a humble scrap collection depot, they gradually expanded and grew stronger, moving into the renewable resources sector. She wants to follow in my footsteps, but she forgot to copy my hard work. 9. In the blink of an eye, my daughter has started crawling. She wiggles her chubby little body over. Then with a little butt wiggle and a push of her hands, she plops down to sit. Looking just like a chubby, lucky baby from a New Year's painting, the nanny took a little rattle and teased her with it, encouraging her to reach out and grab it. Time flies, children grow up so quickly, but I could never shake the memory of those bitter days in my past life, when I had no one to rely on. When I first got pregnant, I didn't want to keep it, but Caden's mother insisted I have the baby. Just focus on giving birth. You don't have to worry about anything else, if you're too busy. I'll take the baby back to my hometown to raise. Caden begged me every day too. In the end, when I found him hiding in the bathroom wiping away tears, my heart finally softened, and that's how I gave birth to my first daughter. When the nurse said it was a girl, his mother left for her hometown without even a glance, and from then on, she never showed any concern for me or our child. I did consider asking my own mother to come help. But how could we possibly fit another person into our tiny one-bedroom rental? On top of that, Caden kept promising he would do his absolute best to take care of things at home, so the idea was eventually dropped. I went through my postpartum recovery alone, and I raised our child by myself. Even though Caden pitches in as soon as he gets home, it's just a drop in the bucket, most of the time. He has to work his fingers to the bone. If he doesn't, we might not have food on the table. The pain of breastfeeding, the exhaustion of sleepless nights, the struggle of trying to soothe the baby who won't sleep, I bore all of that alone. I endured day after day, until finally the baby could sit up and be carried on my back. That's when I started collecting scrap metal with her strapped to me. Those 6 months dragged on so slowly, each day crawling by like the tick of a clock. I counted every single second, looking at how relaxed and content I am now. It's clear that motherhood isn't all suffering, ma'am. Nanny Lou called out to me, holding my phone, and snapped me out of my reverie. Your phone call. Oh, I took the phone and answered it casually. Giovanna, hurry, your sister's going into labor. 10. By the time I got to the hospital, Caden's mom had already thrown in the towel. My mom watched my sister, her heart aching, wiping away tears. All she could do was fret over and over about what they were going to do. Caden, meanwhile, was running around handling everything, big and small. The hallway of the county hospital was dimly lit, with 2 nurses squeezed into a shabby station, chatting idly. That mother-in-law is just awful. Who still favors boys over girls in this day and age? At least the baby's father is a decent man. If the father were unreliable too, I don't see how I could go on. The ward had 3 beds. The other 2 were surrounded by doting grandmothers and mothers, who couldn't stop praising Caden for how tirelessly he was running around. They talk about him as if he's the rarest, most perfect man to ever walk the earth, but he's only doing the most ordinary things that every mother does. Why don't people praise mothers like that? Is it just because he's a man that the bar for being good is set so pathetically low? As an outsider now, I find it utterly ridiculous, but when I was in the thick of it, I was genuinely moved by him too. How could you be so foolish? A sudden, cold laugh cut through my reverie, seeing how good he is to me now. You must be full of regret, aren't you? You must envy me. Just think back to how pitiful you looked when you were giving birth, but no matter how much you regret it, it's useless now. Giovanna, for once in my life, I've finally come out on top, cough, cough, overcome with emotion. She coughed violently several times, and a dark red stain of blood slowly seeped through the thin blanket covering her. A nurse rushed in and frantically tried to stop the bleeding, shooing me out of the hospital room. The hallway floor had just been mopped, and the ancient, worn limestone tiles gave off a nauseating, fishy stench that made you gag. I honestly have no idea what makes her think she's better than me. 11, time flies, and just like that, 4 or 5 years have passed. Zachary and I get along well. In fact, you could even say we're quite happy together. On the surface, I'm the doting woman who hangs on his every word, but behind the scenes, I'm a powerhouse making multi-million-dollar investments. I effortlessly switch between my two personas, keeping him perfectly content. This is a whole lot easier than my last life, where I had to grind and build everything from scratch. Now, looking at my sister's situation, it's a bit less satisfactory. She can't understand why, after all these years, Caden's career hasn't reached the heights it did when he was with me. She began to complain incessantly, lamenting the unfairness of fate and Caden's lack of effort. The once envied perfect couple also started to argue fiercely, while they were busy complaining and quarreling. I was traveling to primary and secondary schools in a mountainous region with a truckload of sanitary pads, personally delivering these essential supplies to female school administrators. Truth be told, I had my own plans. The principal took the donation list but just stood there, looking past me with an impatient expression. Where are the cameras? The reporters? Hurry up, let's not disrupt the students' class. That's when I realized why they were all lined up so neatly. I said, "There's none of that. This is just a small gesture from me, to help the children live better lives." The principal was stunned for a moment. After snapping out of it, he hurriedly wiped his hands on his shirt before shaking mine with both of his, wearing an awkward smile. "I thought you were just going to take the items back after the photo op again. I'm so sorry. The girls here have it tough. This is wonderful. I'll make sure to keep these items safe and put them to good use." Having traveled far and wide in my past life, I've seen my fair share of things. Donated sanitary pads for girls often never reach them. Instead, they're taken to make insoles for boys' shoes or are simply sold off. Donated clothing, meant as an act of charity, often ends up prioritized for boys, or even winds up in the hands of middle-aged, unmarried men. A fund established to support young girls ended up fulfilling a 20-year-old man's photography dream. Such incidents are far too common. So common it infuriates me. What seems like the most ordinary thing can sometimes become an obstacle that holds a girl back for life. "Are we all set?" I said to my assistant beside me. "All set. Then let's begin." 12. A news story can trend for just a few hours. By the time I got off the plane, Weibo was already a different place. Hashtag Giovanna gives back. Hashtag supporting girls in remote areas. Hashtag Giovanna the unsung hero. Hashtag the internet sleuths are truly formidable. They managed to dig up most of the photos from my charitable donations over the past few years. I was thrust into the spotlight and under intense scrutiny. 13. This was the first time in all our years of marriage that Zachary was waiting for me at home. Our daughter Lyra had just gotten back from kindergarten and was chattering away, telling him all about her day. My sister's shrill voice still seemed to ring in my ears. "Don't get too excited. Zachary hates it when family members draw attention to themselves. He used to scold me just for buying a few Hermes bags. Now you've caused such a big scene. Do you really think he'll let you off easy? I really think you should stay in for a while. I'm afraid you might see something you'd rather not." She called me specifically after seeing the Weibo post to say this. I asked the nanny to take Lyra away, then met Zachary's gaze and forced a thin, brittle smile. "You know everything now, don't you? I'm so sorry for keeping it from you all this time. I really can't keep this under wraps any longer. If I keep hiding it, it's going to start hurting my bottom line. So, I'm taking an unconventional approach and choosing to proactively publicize my charitable work. The charity is genuine, but so are my ulterior motives. These entrepreneurs, they're always so eager to engage in philanthropy. Whether it's sincere or not is another matter, but at the very least, they manage to win both fame and fortune. If he takes it in stride, great, we'll fight side by side from now on. If he doesn't accept it, that's fine too. We might as well burn that bridge. I've made enough money over the years, and I don't have to put up with this job's nonsense anymore. I've made all the necessary preparations. Instead of the expected fury, I lost my balance and fell into a firm, inescapable embrace. The faint scent of tobacco mingled with a man's cool pine cologne invaded my senses. A voice above me let out a soft, wistful sigh. "Don't move. Just let me hold you for a moment. You really are my lucky star. Marrying you is the best decision I ever made." 14. My sudden popularity sent Zachary Corp's stock soaring 8 points in a single day, with no signs of slowing down. My unintended move ended up multiplying his net worth, just like that. I effortlessly rose to stand shoulder to shoulder with him. And he even boasted, "My wife is a business prodigy. Is it really that easy? It's so easy." It feels like Zachary has been possessed. Just when life is going well, someone always has to come along and spoil it. Lyra is about to turn 6, and suddenly there's a lot of discordant noise around us. Isn't it about time for a second child? With such a large family business, how can you manage without a son to inherit it? Who knows? The husband might already have a child on the side. With illegitimate children having equal rights these days, he could grow up, be recognized, and inherit the business. The first wife probably won't have an easy life. Sigh, it's really quite pitiful, not even having a son. I couldn't help but laugh as I read on. Oh, woe is me. Between what Zachary has given me over the years and my own investment returns, I'm already a young millionairess with a net worth over 100 million. And my assets are still appreciating and generating income. To be pitiable on this level, the bar is set rather high. In my past life, my sister bore him 5 children, almost one a year, each delivered by C-section. She said it didn't hurt, but I've had a C-section too. How could it not hurt? So after giving birth to Lyra, I've been secretly taking birth control pills, terrified of getting pregnant again. But then one day, I suddenly discovered my pills were gone. The pills disguised as vitamin C had turned into real vitamin C. And I'd searched everywhere possible without finding them. For the first time, I felt a real panic. Zachary was in the shower, the sound of rushing water pounding in my chest. This time, he would be staying at home for 2 whole weeks. Without the medicine, the risk is far too high. I'm not willing to harm my own body, but how do I say no? Could I fake being sick? Use a condom. The pill isn't good for your body. Zachary had already come out wrapped in a towel at some point. I was so flustered I hadn't even noticed the water had stopped running. Oh, okay, all right. Maybe it was because we spent so little time together, or maybe it was because I always treated him with a kind of boss-employee mentality. Whatever the reason, my interactions with Zachary always lacked a certain ease. Sensing my discomfort, his brow furrowed slightly before relaxing, and he silently turned off the light. In the deep of night, we entwined like mandarin ducks. The embroidered quilt a churning sea of crimson, until the storm of passion finally subsided. At the peak of passion, his voice trembled against my earlobe as he whispered, "Why do you always keep me at arm's length? Am I not good enough for you?" For a man of his age and stature, one who commanded such respect in the outside world, he looked utterly forlorn in that moment, like a wounded child. In that instant, it felt like something struck me right in the heart. 15, after that. Zachary shifted his work focus to the Kyoto headquarters and was noticeably home much more often. Faced with my confusion, he responded with a hint of proud affection, "You can never make all the money in the world, but you only get one chance to see your children grow up." But I distinctly heard him mutter to himself, "You have your company, I have mine. If we're both constantly busy and never see each other, it'll damage our marriage. That's absolutely unacceptable." To keep our relationship strong, I occasionally drop by his office with the kids. After all, he still insists on giving me $3 million a month. The staff are used to it by now. No one questions or stops me, and I make my way straight to the door of the CEO's office. A woman's hazy silhouette was cast upon the frosted glass door. "Dad, MMMPH," almost instinctively. I clamped my hand over Lyra's mouth to stifle her cry, then hunched down and pulled her quietly around the corner. "Shh. Your father has a guest. Let's wait a moment." I said the words, but my sister's warning kept echoing uncontrollably in my mind. "I'd advise you not to go out lately. I'm afraid you might see something you really don't want to see." Is that how it is? Even after all the mental preparation, now that I'm actually here, I still feel a heavy, suffocating ache in my chest. My body seemed to move on its own, urging me to get closer. Just a little closer, to hear what they were saying. I actually heard it. "Isn't it just that you want a wife whose birth chart complements yours? Giovanna and I have the same birth chart. We look the same. If she can bring you good fortune, so can I. Just divorce her and marry me. And I'll tell you a huge secret, one that concerns your very survival." My heart suddenly skipped a beat, feeling a bit stifled and uncomfortable. That was my sister's voice. The last time I saw her was in the hospital, after she'd given birth to another daughter. This time, not even Kaden showed up. My sister had already sensed something was wrong. Her face was deathly pale as she asked me, "What did I do wrong? Why are you acting so differently now? We parted on bad terms last time. I never imagined we'd meet again here. Of all places." I pushed the door open without warning, our eyes meeting in a cold, silent standoff. "Sis, when you said there was something I'd hate to see the most, did you mean my own sister trying to steal my man?" Zachary was sitting behind his expansive desk, but he jolted to his feet the moment he saw me. I didn't give him a chance to speak. "Security, get her out of here, now." It was only then that people outside the chairman's office began to peek in, utterly shocked by the scene. "Oh my God, the boss's wife is a twin. No wonder the one I ran into earlier looked so familiar yet different." I said hello, and she completely ignored me. I thought she seemed off, too. Our boss's wife never has that bitter, resentful look on her face. The security guard was also sweating bullets. Letting unauthorized personnel in would be a dereliction of their duty. Forget it. Just escort her out. For document anti-counterfeiting, choose Xiaohu Bot. For finding books, choose Xiaohu Robot. Stable, reliable, heavy checkmark. No pitfalls. With a dismissive wave of his hand, Zachary made his sister, who had been stubbornly holding her head high with an air of indifference, suddenly widen her eyes in disbelief. Zachary, don't you want to know what happens to you in the future? I'm the only one who knows your story. She can't help you with anything. She pointed at me agitatedly. I reached out and placed my hand over hers, gently pressing it down. Our hands overlapped, the slender, pale smoothness of mine forming a stark contrast with her rough, cracked skin. It's hard to believe these are the hands of twin sisters. She suddenly lunged at me, hands outstretched to grab my throat. All of this is mine. You stole my life. You lied to me. It's all your fault. All of this is your fault. The security guards, who were already on high alert, sprang into action at the sound. They pinned her down on either side the moment she moved, awaiting my instructions. Should we call the police? Zachary remained perfectly calm, still seeking my opinion. Given that she is my own sister, I shook my head. No, let her go. As they dragged her out, she suddenly burst into laughter. You're finished, Zachary. Ha. I can't wait to see you penniless. 16. The office settled back into quiet, broken only by the occasional murmur of conversation between father and daughter. After a long moment, seeing I had no intention of leaving, Zachary finally spoke up. Do you blame me? Huh, I was a bit confused. I married you back then because of your birth chart. Oh, I said, feigning nonchalance. I'm only with you for the money too. We're both just weighing the pros and cons. Pot calling the kettle black. His mouth opened, a thought on the tip of his tongue, but in the end, no words came out. A sudden wave of disappointment washed over me, followed by a nameless irritation that churned restlessly inside, leaving me thoroughly agitated. For goodness sake, what am I getting all sentimental about? It was a transaction, pure and simple. How did I manage to develop feelings just from doing my job for the boss? Office romances are a major taboo and should be avoided at all costs. I kept repeating this warning to myself, over and over in my mind. That very evening, Zachary presented a marital property division agreement. Essentially, it stated that all assets under my name would remain mine, and all assets under his name would also be transferred to me, in the space designated for him. His signature was already in place, complete with a fingerprint seal. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. What a generous boss I am. You knew all along, didn't you? I asked, staring at him. You, who love children so much. He gave a bitter chuckle and scratched the corner of his eyebrow with a finger. If we're about to go bankrupt, why drag the kids through that suffering, with Lyra? I had no choice. I didn't know back then, but now that I do know, I have to think about the children. Zachary's expression turned deadly serious. Right when you were buying that trending spot, that explains it. Zachary said that after he went bankrupt in his past life, his family lived in utter misery. The 7 of them were crammed into a dilapidated rental, and with no money, Zachary was forced to take odd jobs at construction sites. His sister's entire closet of luxury items, which she was so proud of, was sold off completely, but what they paid for them was one price, and what they got when selling was a completely different story, a drop in the bucket. The children were mocked by their classmates and harassed by debt collectors. I absolutely will not allow what happened before to happen again, which is exactly why you must sign this agreement, even though I understand the reasons for the bankruptcy. The business world is unpredictable, and I can't guarantee we can avoid it this time, although the law states that a company's bankruptcy doesn't affect personal assets. As a precaution, let's sign this agreement stating my business has nothing to do with you. That way, the assets under your name will be truly protected. If bankruptcy does come, I can use them to make a fresh start. I was taken aback. Aren't you afraid I might just take the money and run, leaving you high and dry? He let out a hearty laugh. If I don't go bankrupt, there's no real difference between the assets being in my wife's hands or my own. If I do go bankrupt, well, I can still rely on you to take care of me, and in the absolute worst-case scenario, if you were to abandon me, at the very least you and our child would be set for life. No need to suffer through hardship with me, no matter how you look at it. I come out on top. So what exactly is there for me to be afraid of? Hearing that immediately put my mind at ease. Several billion, and he just handed it over to me, just like that. This guy's a keeper, so I happily signed, and my status skyrocketed from a minor heiress to a major tycoon. 17. I'm filthy rich. Having this much money and not doing something big with it just makes me restless. The unfulfilled dreams from my past life keep haunting my thoughts, and so, with my familiarity of the industry, keen sense of trends, and hard-won experience, I landed squarely on every opportunity, riding each wave of success. It was like retaking an exam I'd already aced, completely effortless and in the bag. Then it grew, expanded, and expanded even more. In the blink of an eye, several more years passed, and Zachary's business indeed took a nosedive. An industry left behind by the times ultimately has no power to reverse its fate. The once glorious business empire, if not collapsing overnight, was left barely clinging to life. A shadow of its former self. Branch offices are shutting down one after another. And the stock price keeps plummeting. Zachary was so worried his hair was turning gray, yet he couldn't think of any good solutions. Meanwhile, Caden, by venturing into the renewable resources sector early on, is quietly gaining momentum and showing signs of significant growth. His sister finally began to gloat. She's back to frequenting high-end venues and can rattle off every luxury brand under the sun. She's indulging in the most extravagant lifestyle again, dropping thousands on a single meal without batting an eye. Finally, she can once again boldly and unapologetically buy all sorts of random items at Hermes, just to get her hands on that coveted bag. She reveled in everything Caden gave her, then came to flaunt it in front of me with smug satisfaction. See, my life is better than yours now. Finally, there's something you can't top. I wasn't the least bit angry at what she said. I just felt sorry for her, relying on a hazy memory. I managed to find the house from my recollection. Sure enough, a woman and a child were living there. Back when I held a significant stake, Caden was already keeping a mistress on the side. Now, faced with a foolish and incompetent sister, how could he possibly stay faithful? 18. My sister didn't invite me to Caden's company's IPO gala. Are you afraid I'd go after her? I'm in no mood for that. With the Rui Guangshares badge pinned to my chest, I strode right into the banquet hall. Everything was so peaceful, but the peace was soon shattered. My sister, elegant in a haute couture evening gown, stood beside Caden, holding her wineglass with effortless grace. Their two daughters, dressed like porcelain dolls, trailed behind them. The interplay of piano and violin lent an air of elegance and sophistication to the entire ballroom. Suddenly, "Daddy, Daddy, I finally found you," a little boy burst through the crowd, ran straight to Caden, and hugged his leg. "Daddy, Daddy. Toby missed you so much. Did you miss Toby?" A woman in her 20s was running after him, completely out of breath. "I'm so sorry. The child missed his father so much, and the moment I looked away, he just took off. I'll take him back right now." A sudden hush fell over the room, followed by an eruption of laughter. Caden suddenly flew into a rage. "Who the hell are you people? I don't know you. Security, get them out of here." The little boy was shoved roughly to the ground and burst into tears. The woman, heartbroken, helped the child up, staring at him in utter disbelief, her voice choked with tears. "Caden, this is your son. You promised to leave him your entire fortune. How can you deny us now? Just look at him. He's the spitting image of you." The boy's face was tilted upward, under the brilliant lights. The identical bone structure and features made a DNA test seem utterly redundant. I watched it all unfold from my hiding place. 19. Don't you want your child to have a proper name? Being called a fatherless child, that's a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? If you seize this opportunity, there might be some shame in it, but once it's done, your son will be the sole heir of the Bai family. No one will ever be able to challenge your position again. Think it over carefully. Can this really be done? 20. Given that she chose to be the other woman, it's no surprise her perspective is rather narrow. Sure enough, she showed up at the dinner party that night, and she put on quite a show, a real crowd pleaser. When my sister confronted Caden right then and there, it was clear she'd known about this woman all along. She might have tolerated it in private, but she absolutely could not stand someone brazenly walking all over her like this. Enraged, Caden slapped her across the face, and blood immediately trickled from the corner of her sister's mouth. "I've spoiled you rotten. You can stay if you like this house, or get the hell out if you don't. Eating my food, drinking my drinks every day. What am I, running a charity for a spoiled brat?" Still seething after the verbal assault, he kicked her in the shoulder before storming off. Leaving the room full of guests exchanging bewildered glances, the crowd gradually dispersed, and the woman swaggered off with her child, looking immensely pleased with herself. She headed in Caden's direction. My sister remained slumped there, utterly despondent, until I appeared. The vast banquet hall was empty save for the two of us. "How did you get in here? I specifically told security not to let you in." I pointed to the badge on my chest. "Sorry, but I'm a representative of a partner organization. No one can stop me from coming in." "Fun, isn't it? Bet you didn't see that coming." I grinned slyly. "Last time, you killed me right here. This time, I'm the one who's brought you down." Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes bloodshot and blazing with a venomous sharpness. "Even so, I'm still better than you. At worst, I'll acknowledge that bastard child. In the future, I'll still get the lion's share of this vast family fortune." "Oh. Really? Are you so sure there will even be a vast fortune? You've been cooped up at home for too long. It's made you stupid. If you still don't get it, just take a look at your company's stock price tomorrow." 21. Caden's company had just gone public when it was hit with a major scandal. The very next day, its stock price plummeted straight through its IPO price at the opening bell. Caden was as frantic as an ant on a hot griddle. Yet his wife was still hounding him to deal with his extramarital affair. In a fit of anger, Caden filed for divorce. His wife initially refused, but the sight of the stock price and free fall terrified her. She had seen this scenario before, and she feared being buried under a mountain of debt once again, after the stock hit the lower limit for several consecutive days. Sheer terror and the instinct to flee forced her to sign the divorce papers. Then, soon after, Caden's company was acquired. All the splendor vanished like a dream, leaving nothing but emptiness. After all these years, my sister and I are finally sitting together again. I lost again this time, but you didn't win either. How do you know I didn't win? Zachary is bankrupt. Now you have nothing, just like me. Isn't that right? I shook a finger sternly. No. Just because he's bankrupt doesn't mean I'm left with nothing, I said, handing over a business card. I'm here now. You've seen me before, huh? Her chopsticks clattered to the table. She picked up a new pair but just held them, not making a move to eat. Is this Reglo Holdings? The same Reglo Holdings that acquired our company. I took a sip of wine, leisurely wiped my mouth, and said, indeed, and as it happens, I am the chairman, clatter, My sister dropped the chopsticks she had just picked up. Again, no, it can't be. How is this possible? You're just a woman. Why wouldn't it be possible? My expression turned cold as I stared at her. Do you know why things turned out badly for you both times? Because you've always pinned your hopes for life on someone else. When you had money, you relied on a man. When you had no money, you still relied on a man. You never once thought to make something of yourself on your own. But in your past life, didn't you also? My sister's beautiful eyes were filled with confusion. She didn't understand. You think I rely on Caden? That's just your assumption. You lack capability yourself, so you assume other women do too. All you see is how good he is to me, how considerate and attentive. If you paid the slightest bit of attention, you'd see my rough hands and the lines on my face. They're the marks of us fighting side by side. I was once a fool for love, and I was once deceived by sweet talk, but after I woke up, I understood. Relying on anyone is worse than relying on yourself. No matter the circumstances or the hardships you face, only when your own two hands are strong can you move mountains, part seas, and be invincible. But, sister, you don't get it. I called the waiter over to settle the bill, when my sister suddenly erupted. One more time. I dare you to do it one more time. This time, I'll definitely be better than you. I placed my hand on the doorknob, turned back, and sighed. Why don't you get it? At the very most, you're only 36 years old, 22. A month later, my sister opened a mutton soup shop. Making mutton soup was her specialty, a steaming bowl of mutton soup, served with shredded flatbread and refreshing cold side dishes. It was simply delicious. She worked tirelessly from dawn till dusk, simmering the broth and cooking the meat, yet her face carried a newfound sense of ease and contentment. 6 months later, she expanded her shop. A year later, she opened her first branch. Even as the boss, she was constantly bustling about. Never a moment to rest, and she hired an all-female workforce. Someone asked her, "Aren't you afraid someone might steal your craft?" She said, "Then let's learn. If it helps everyone earn a living with their own hands, the more we learn, the better. We women must have our own skills. We can't rely on others to put food on the table." On the day we signed the acquisition agreement, Caden once asked me, why not show some leniency for the sake of family ties? I only told him because he let me down. Zachary ended up going bankrupt in the end, but it doesn't matter. Wealth just flows from one person's hands to another's. The day he lost his job for good, I slipped him a card. How about you stay home, do the laundry, cook, and take care of me? I'll give you $3 million a month. But I'm a bit of a hardcore feminist. Everything in this house goes my way. He feigned hesitation. Well, I suppose it's not entirely out of the question. Back then, I leveraged his chauvinism to earn my first pot of gold. Now, it's my turn to embrace a bit of female chauvinism. I then turned and whispered to my daughter, "Go and learn from your father, how he started his business and how he runs it. Whether it's his or mine, it will all be yours someday." The end. Story 2. My husband's best friend asked to borrow our car, but I stopped him, saying he couldn't drive without a license. My husband was embarrassed that I made him lose face, so he drove into me and then lent the car out anyway. The borrowed car ended up in an accident, and our family was left paying for everything. My husband showed no remorse, and that night, a heavy storm washed our home away. We only had one small wooden boat at home, and he used it to rescue the neighbors, leaving me and our daughter struggling in the flood. He let me and our daughter drown in the flood. When I opened my eyes again, his so-called good friend had the nerve to ask to borrow our car. I looked at my husband and said, "You're the head of the household. It's your call. This time, I'll make sure he plays the good guy to the bitter end, even if it costs him his life. Sis, something's come up at home. Could I borrow the car for a few days? Don't worry. I'll cover the gas. Won't let you lose out on a single thing." My husband nudged me with his elbow. People are waiting. Speak up already. I snapped out of my daze and came face to face with two disgusting figures. In my past life, my husband's friend Jake asked to borrow our truck to haul some cargo. When I asked if he had a driver's license, he looked at my husband Joran and said no. I asked him again what he needed to haul, but he hemmed and hawed without giving a straight answer. I told my husband to help him with the hauling, but he waved his hand in refusal and got angry. 5. He snapped that if I didn't want to lend it, I should just say so instead of making excuses. He stormed off with a dark look, and my husband slapped me to the ground, saying that him borrowing the car was doing us a favor, then forced the keys into his hand. I stood in front of the car and explained to my husband, driving without a license, if you get into an accident, they'll still come after you. You know our situation, if something happens. Even selling our house and shop wouldn't cover the damages. His buddy was standing nearby making snide remarks, saying my husband couldn't even control his own wife and questioning his manhood. My husband angrily flung the car door open, slammed his foot on the accelerator, and sent me flying. Our 5-year-old daughter came running over in tears, crying "Mommy," and nearly got caught under the car's wheels. I grabbed our daughter and rolled us both out of the way just in time to avoid the car reversing back. To this day, I still can't shake the memory of that heart-stopping moment. Hearing this, I smiled faintly at my husband. In our house, my husband has the final say. My husband's friend immediately turned to look at him. "Joran, we're brothers. You wouldn't say no to lending me the money, would you?" In my past life, my husband was always incredibly generous to outsiders, especially to his good buddy Jake. He used my husband's car to run an unlicensed taxi service and ended up in a car crash. The moment the guy called him bro, my husband didn't hesitate. He sold our house to cover the surgery costs, all in the name of loyalty. He slammed into me so hard I went flying and broke bones. The pain was unbearable. I wished I were dead, yet he told me to live if I couldn't die if I must, refusing to spend a single penny on medical care for me and our daughter. My husband couldn't stand being provoked and immediately agreed. "We're brothers, no need to stand on ceremony. Here, take the car keys, you're a real bro." His buddy laid on the flattery thick, puffing my husband up with pride, completely ignoring the serious consequences, even the risk of a prison sentence. Last time, I tried desperately to warn him, and it landed both me and our daughter in the hospital, and all he said was, "Serves you right." He even blamed me for embarrassing him and had us discharged the very next day despite our severe injuries. My daughter and I were lucky to have survived that ordeal. This time, not only will I not remind him, I'll be even more generous than he is. I took out my phone and handed it to my husband, saying thoughtfully for his sake, "The car's almost out of gas. Can you send me 3000 for fuel?" His buddy chimed in, "Louder now, thanks, sis." Then he turned to my husband and said, "Bro, you really married a great woman." My husband wouldn't let me take all the credit. He immediately patted his brother on the shoulder and, more generously than I would have, pointed at the mangosteens in the distance, saying, "Take a few crates back home. The kids all love these. The mangosteens in the store sell for 50 per jean. The wholesale price I get them for is around 20 per jean as well." He was the type to take whatever was offered without question, loading every last one of the mangosteens I just brought back into his car. They were worth at least 4,000 or 5,000 yuan. My husband huffed and puffed as he helped load them into the vehicle. As the other party drove off, he didn't forget to add, "Come by anytime if you need anything." I've been waiting for him to say that. His best friend's whole family is just like him. In the past, he caused an accident while driving my husband's car without a license. His wife and sister came to my husband and just complained about being broke. My husband laid his heart bare to them and voluntarily took full responsibility for the accident. This landed me with millions in debt, forcing us to move back to our old rural house. When the other party became paralyzed, my husband immediately brought them home and dumped the caregiving on me. I ended up meticulously tending to them with lavish meals at every sitting. My daughter and I had to make do with plain steamed buns and boiled water. I complained to my husband that he shouldn't have lent the car, taken on the responsibility, or brought that person into our home. His so-called good friend threw a dramatic fit and smashed the meal I had carefully prepared for him. My husband, concerned about saving face, pinned me to the ground and beat me until I lost control of my bladder and bowels. That night, a torrential downpour struck, washing away the houses. Gritting my teeth and risking my life, I managed to retrieve that battered wooden boat and had just placed my young daughter aboard. My husband, carrying his close friend on his back, then forced me and our daughter off the boat. My daughter and I were tossed about in the floodwaters, ultimately meeting a tragic end together. In this life, I won't stand in his shadow anymore. Let him face the consequences of that car accident on his own. The fruit store hadn't even opened for business, yet he gave away days' worth of earnings. My daughter and I were so exhausted we had to fill up on plain water. I asked him for money to buy groceries and cook. He gave me a really dirty look and was clearly annoyed. "I just gave you 200 the other day, and now you're asking for more. What did you even spend it on?" If it were me in my past life, I would have definitely laid it all out for him, expense by expense. No, I just chuckled. Old Zhang's kid had a fever yesterday and borrowed 100 from me. To my surprise, he snorted and said, "Are you stupid?" They ask, "And you just hand it over. Do you even realize what our own situation is like?" So he was well aware of our family's financial struggles, yet in his previous life, he'd rather throw money at strangers than spare a thought for me and our daughter. Before he could finish venting his anger at me, Old Man Arthur from next door came downstairs to buy fruit. He made a beeline straight for my husband. The little one's caught a cold. Joran, any fruits that might help ease the symptoms. My husband's expression shifted in an instant. He showed more concern for someone else's sick child than he ever does for our own daughter. Is it serious? Should I take him to the hospital? Old Man Arthur waved his hand dismissively. The fever's not too high, just 39 degrees. He'll be fine with some rest. My husband jumped up in a panic, hastily scooping a bag full of blueberries into a plastic bag, dragging Uncle Arthur along as he hurried home. His fever's already 39 degrees. I'm taking him to the hospital. The fresh blueberries I bought wholesale this morning haven't even sold a single pound. Gone. Just like that, I followed along and said to my husband, "A child's cold is no small matter. I'm not comfortable with you going alone." My husband shot me a glare. What about the family business? Get back home now. He was well aware the family business still needed attention. I stubbornly followed anyway. Seeing I hadn't moved, he kicked me in the side. Since when do my orders mean nothing? I dodged, and his momentum carried him forward, sending both him and Old Man Arthur tumbling down. A sickening crack of bone echoed through the air. Old Man Arthur has a bone fracture. I moved to help him, but my husband was quicker. He scrambled up from the ground, hoisted Old Man Arthur onto his back, and rushed him to the hospital. The surgery cost over 20,000. Not only did my husband cover the expenses, but he also cared for him like his own son for half a month, buying expensive health supplements, treating pricey fruits like they're nothing, and sending them to their house every single day. In our past life, my daughter and I were writhing in pain on the floor, begging my husband through tears to care about us, to call a car and take us to the hospital. My husband walked away without a second glance to take Old Arthur's grandson to the hospital. The moment he left, Old Man Arthur's son and daughter-in-law came downstairs to mock me. What goes around comes around. Serves you right for never being a decent person. Once again, I saw the couple coming downstairs specifically to seek me out. Before they could say a word, I spoke up graciously. "It's our fault that the elderly gentleman fell. My husband and I have decided to give you our shop as compensation. This fruit shop was built from scratch through 10 years of backbreaking work, day and night, before my husband and I even got married. In my past life, this shop wasn't mine to keep. In this life, why not follow my husband's example of kindness and pass it on to someone else? There's still 1 month until that torrential downpour." My husband, who had generously given the shop to the couple, was pulled to safety by them when the rickety boat capsized and sank. When they saw me, they mocked me, saying the wicked get there just deserts. Then, they watched helplessly as my daughter and I were tossed about in the floodwaters. I wonder if by doing this good deed for my husband in this lifetime, how will they treat him when the storm comes? The couple immediately beamed with joy. "Oh my, this is so embarrassing. It's really no big deal. The store my husband and I bought is a prime downtown property. Renting it out brings in 40 to 50,000 a month. Selling it would fetch over $1 million. No wonder they're thrilled." The couple came in with a storm, but left walking on air. After seeing them off, I planned to liquidate all the fruit in my shop. That way I could leave town early with my daughter, dodging both debt and the downpour. I was struggling to find an excuse to divorce my husband. Alara, my husband's best friend's sister, came by looking for him. When she realized my husband was out caregiving, she immediately tried to leave. I stopped her from going. "Whatever it is, you can tell me. My husband and I are both straightforward, trustworthy people." When they heard me say that, they decided to be straight with me. "My brother said your whole family are good people, so I came to find you. It's nothing too serious, really. I just want to get a local residency permit, mainly for benefits like car license plates and such. My husband and I both have local household registration, and we've been approached with similar offers before. They wanted us to get a sham divorce, then marry their clients separately. Once the other party's household registration is transferred here, my husband and I would remarry each other. 100,000 in one go. That makes 200,000 for the two of us. It's like getting paid all that money just for processing some paperwork." Without lifting a finger, I was afraid of getting into legal trouble, but my husband tried every trick in the book. Still, I wouldn't budge. This time, I'm going to let him have his way. 5. After all, his best friend is about to get into a car accident. I still have a stake in the family home. In his past life, my husband sold the house just to cover his buddy's surgery, but he never settled things with the actual victim. Several plaintiffs' family members sued my husband in court, demanding he pay $2 million in compensation. I risked my life trying to stop it, and ended up being listed as alongside my husband. I immediately agreed to Alara's proposal of a sham divorce with my husband, and I didn't take a single cent from her. He said with great magnanimity, "My buddy's sister is my sister too. Serenity, we're family. Talking about money just ruins the vibe." She left expressing immense gratitude toward me. She went back, gathered all the necessary documents, and came to see my husband, but I did the opposite and called my husband to say, you know Alara, your buddy's sister, she's really gorgeous and a college student too. She came to me wanting to arrange a sham marriage with you to get local residency. I turned her down. If the authorities ever investigate, we could all face charges. My husband's furious voice came through the phone. If she's my brother's sister, she's my sister too. What kind of man would I be if I didn't help with such a small favor? I'll call her myself. Consider it done. I could hear old man Arthur coughing intermittently in the background. I knew it. My husband always puts on his best behavior when there's company around. I deliberately provoked him. Who knows if her sham marriage was just a ploy to get close to you and make it real? I don't care. I'm not having it. I won't agree to a sham divorce with you. My daughter and I will stay right here in this house. Let's see how you manage your fake marriage with her then. Bringing up the house, he thought I was afraid he wouldn't remarry me after the fake divorce, so he tried to reassure me by saying, the house, the shop, the car, our daughter, and all the savings, they're all yours. What else are you worried about? I chuckled to myself, pretending to be heartbroken and sobbing. I just don't agree. What if you run off with her? He dropped that line and hung up in a hurry. Just you wait, I'm coming back right now to sign the agreement with you. At that time, there was no mandatory cooling-off period for divorce. If both parties agreed, they could get divorced anytime they wanted. By the time he returned, I had already gathered all the necessary documents for the divorce and placed them in the most visible spot, the month before the rainstorm arrived. The weather was unbearably muggy. The temperature had once soared to over 70 degrees. My daughter was using a small electric fan, but sweat still poured down her head. It drenched the hair on her forehead. The little vest I was wearing was completely soaked through when I touched it. My daughter thoughtfully turned the small fan toward me. Mom, I'm not hot. You have the fan. In my past life, my daughter was just as considerate. You endured the scorching heat with me, only to drown alongside me in the end. Gazing at my innocent daughter, in this life, I will protect her at all costs and never let her suffer again. Seeing this, I turned off the fan blowing hot air and, for the first time ever, switched on the air conditioner at home. As soon as the AC turned on, both my daughter and I felt instantly refreshed. When my husband came home and saw us enjoying the cool air, his face felt like we owed him millions, $10 an hour. Over 200 a day. Since when did we start burning money like this? Do you even realize how hard I worked to earn this money? I didn't respond, just held our daughter while giving him a resentful stare. I knew it. You can't wait to divorce me so you can marry that woman. It took my reminder for him to recall the actual reason he came back, but he wanted to turn off the AC first, only to see the remote was in my hand. He yanked out the AC power cord and switched on the useless little fan instead. I was about to plug it back in when Alara arrived with her credentials. She wore a solid light blue dress, elegant yet lively. As soon as she stepped inside, she began fanning herself with her hand and said to my husband, "It's so hot in here. Why don't you have the air conditioning on?" "It is on. You just got here right as it started." My husband snapped out of his daze for a moment, quickly came to his senses, and hurried over to plug it back in. He even snatched the remote from my hand and turned the temperature down to 18 degrees. I went to the kitchen myself to pour tea and cut fruit for the guests. Alara saw my husband bustling about and said I was a lucky woman. I knew she was just being polite, but I kept a straight face, said nothing, and took my daughter back to our room, slamming the door shut. Alara immediately grew restless. "What's wrong with sister-in-law? Did I come at a bad time?" Her husband kindly handed over a toothpick and gently pressed her down to sit on the sofa. "It's nothing. She's just having one of her episodes again. Can't stand seeing others happy." Through the crack in the door, I saw the tender, affectionate look in my husband's eyes as he gazed at her. Indeed, scholars carry a natural air of nobility, standing out from the crowd. Next to her, I'm as common as cabbage, seen everywhere. It's only natural my husband is captivated by her grace. Alara wasn't in a hurry to eat. She spread the documents she brought on the table, and her husband immediately knocked on the door asking for the papers. "They're already here. Why are you being so difficult? Hurry up and get the documents out so we can get this over with." The slower I moved, the more impatient he became. He grabbed the papers I'd left in the entryway and practically dragged me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize the divorce, like a dog was biting at his heels. He went ahead and divorced me in one fell swoop. It made my heart go completely cold. When it comes to doing things for others' benefit, he doesn't hesitate for a second. I didn't take the car in the settlement, only keeping the house, the shop, and the modest savings of a few $100,000. Plus, I got custody of our daughter. I also added a clause stating that I wouldn't be held liable for any accidents involving the loaned car after the divorce. My husband signed without even looking, scrawling his name with a flourish. Clutching the green booklet, I bit my lip hard to maintain a stern expression while glaring at him. He didn't even glance my way. Proceeding to get his marriage certificate with her, I rushed home to pack my bags, listed the house for sale, and moved with my daughter into an air-conditioned apartment. Right after my husband and Alara got their marriage certificate, her brother was in a car accident. The car, along with 4 or 5 passengers, flipped over and went off the bridge. The reason was that Alara's brother tried to overtake another car, but the driver didn't let him. He swerved aggressively to cut in, only to find a large truck coming straight at him. When the two vehicles met, he was no match for the truck and ended up flipping off the bridge. The news reported 1 injured and 5 dead. My husband, upon hearing the news, immediately called me. Something terrible happened at Alara's house. Sell the house right away and come to the hospital to pay for the surgery. He didn't pay it much mind, hung up the phone, and continued rushing up and down the hospital floors. The deceased's family members blocked the entrance to the hospital, demanding an explanation from Alara's brother. Alara, along with her parents and sister-in-law, pushed her husband out to face them. He's the car owner. If you have any issues, take it up with him. Surprisingly, the husband on the screen showed no sign of annoyance and repeatedly apologized to the deceased's family. 5. He promised to pay every cent of the compensation owed, but he didn't realize that lending out the car which then caused a fatal accident made it a criminal case. He knew the borrower didn't have a valid license, yet still handed over the keys, leading to the crash. He bears primary criminal liability for this car accident, civil liability for damages. Everyone in the comments praised the husband for being a loyal and honorable man. Even after his buddy caused such a major accident with his borrowed car, he didn't cut ties. Now that's a true friend. Many also expressed outrage on his behalf, calling the country's laws unfair. Even lending a car out of kindness ended up causing trouble. I'm never doing good deeds again. I couldn't help but laugh when I saw it. My daughter saw me laughing and gave me a kiss on the cheek. Mom, I love you. I rested my forehead against hers and whispered, Mommy loves you too. In this life, I not only divorced him, but also successfully secured the house and what remained of our savings. Even our daughter stayed by my side. I can't stand staying in this city for one more second. The moment I received the house payment, I took my daughter and flew to Shanghai to settle down, the city where my household is registered, being near the river. Experiences flooding whenever it rains. The old house in the countryside, situated on low ground, gets repeatedly submerged during the annual rainy season. When a heavy rainstorm hits, anyone inside a house is sure to be stranded in the middle of the water. The rain came down so fiercely that people had no time to react before being swept away by the flood. With the rain continuing non-stop, rescue efforts were impossible. The city is full of skyscrapers. The nationwide torrential rain poured for 7 days and nights, flooding the ground completely, yet those living in high-rise buildings remained completely unaffected. With sufficient daily supplies and an alcohol stove on hand, one could easily coast through these 7 days without a worry. One might even appreciate the extraordinary natural phenomena brought by this massive storm. I rented a fairly well-built high-rise apartment, just placed another online grocery order and got all my daughter's favorites: mantis shrimp, Pacific sorry, durian milk crepe cake, honey glazed chicken. Didn't even hesitate. Threw that $59 snack box into my cart in a heartbeat. The heavy rain brought a sudden chill to the air. I also added a few hot pot platters to the order, until the 3-door refrigerator was completely packed to the brim. I took advantage of sales to buy dozens of bags of daily staples like cooking oil, rice, and flour. After all, heavy rain leads to transportation difficulties and increased shipping costs. A price hike for daily necessities is inevitable. I've stocked up over 100 barrels of mineral water. I'm worried about drinking contaminated water after heavy rain, which could make me sick. This is just my guess, since I didn't live long enough to see the aftermath of the storm in my previous life. After finishing that, I went to the wholesale market before the storm hit and bought large quantities of fruits and vegetables, storing them in a rented waterproof and moisture-proof cold storage unit. I brought only a small amount of fruits and vegetables back to the rental apartment to enjoy with my daughter over these 7 days, so that after the heavy rain passes, my daughter and I won't struggle due to lack of money. My daughter and I ate chilled watermelon and drank cooling beverages, enjoying the calm before the storm arrived. My husband was overwhelmed with work on his end, because I kept him waiting too long to get the house payment for his buddy's surgery. His buddy's parents and sister-in-law got down on their knees and pressured him to come back and sell the house. He went back to the house we lived in when we got married, but his key didn't work. He knocked on the door, and a stranger answered. Only then did I find out the house had already been sold by me. He called me, but I deliberately turned off my phone, with Alara pressuring him relentlessly. He had no choice but to rush to the shop, planning to sell it to ease the situation, but when he arrived at the shop, the people inside had already been replaced by old man Arthur's son and daughter-in-law. When he brought up selling the shop, the couple looked stunned. Didn't you already give us the store? What, are you trying to back out? My father is still sick. Her husband was completely bewildered, and Alara burst into tears, shoving him. You gave away the shop. What's my brother supposed to do now? The couple didn't recognize Alara and eyed her suspiciously. Who are you? They gave us the shop. What's it got to do with your brother? Joran, your sister-in-law's a good person. Don't go causing trouble for her. Alara couldn't stand the way they looked at people. We're married. How is this not my brother's business? Say something. What about my brother? If we don't pay the surgery fee soon, he won't make it. The couple stared at their husband. "You're the one who made our old man break his bones. This shop was promised to us." On one side was a complete stranger. On the other was his close buddy who'd just gotten married and was practically family. Yet again, my husband's loyalty tilted toward that outsider. I dragged a resentful Alara away. "I'll figure something out about the money." His solution was to call me and demand I selflessly hand over my hundreds of thousands in savings. My phone was turned off the whole time, left with no other options. He called his parents to ask them for a loan. He's lucky if his parents aren't asking him for money. The moment he called to borrow money, they started yelling at him. "Why haven't you sent the 2,000 yuan this month? How dare you ask us for money after all we've done for you?" With that, she slammed the phone down with a sharp crack, not forgetting to mention the money transfer. She casually added that there was a celebration in the village this month and told him to send another 20 or 30,000 back. My husband had been stewing in frustration for days, with no outlet for his anger since he couldn't take it out on me or our daughter. Now he seized the chance to vent all that pent-up rage on his parents. He called them back again. "Am I not your son? I give you 2,000 a month. That's 24,000 a year, on holidays. I sent another 30 to 40,000. All in all, it adds up to a solid 300,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's 3 million. I'm telling you, if you don't give me this money, I'll go back and beat you to death." Believe me, his parents were so terrified that they immediately handed over the money, but this small amount was nowhere near enough. In the past, the over $2 million from selling the house were all spent on Alara's brother. Her parents would rather die than not get the most expensive brace for Alara's brother. Even if he doesn't have long to live, they want to give him a fighting chance to hold on till the end. The responsibility of taking care of him falls on me. He'll have to face the hardships of this world on his own. A heavy rainstorm is about to hit. I wonder if he'll save himself or his buddy when I'm not around to help. When my husband was told he was being prosecuted, he was completely stunned. Alara was even more bewildered. After obtaining local residency through a sham marriage with her husband, she is now preparing to file for divorce. On paper, she remains his legally wedded wife. They are jointly liable for the accident compensation. Her husband is highly likely to face criminal charges, so the bulk of the civil compensation fell squarely on her shoulders. When the victim's family couldn't get compensation, they came to harass her. All along, she knew exactly what her brother was like. Yet she took the lead in confronting me and demanding money. She pushed her brother into my house. Now she gets a taste of her own medicine, right in front of her parents. Her husband brought her brother into our home. Her parents thought that, being a man, her husband wouldn't take good care of their son. So, egged on by her sister-in-law, they sent Alara over as well. Nothing would go wrong as long as they didn't share a room. Besides, her brother was keeping an eye on them. The old house in the countryside had 3 bedrooms, which was more than enough for them. Alara couldn't stand staying there and wanted to leave on the very first day. Her husband finally talked her down after much persuasion. When she brought it up again, he raised his fist. He even entered her room at night when she resisted. A heavy rainstorm hit at midnight, flooding all the nearby houses. Without me there, they could only grab onto floating logs, struggling to stay afloat in the floodwaters. Unfortunately, a single log could only support so many people. Alara clung tightly to the tree trunk, refusing to lend them a hand. Her husband could only manage to grip the trunk while carrying her brother, who had lost his lower limbs, gasping for a breath. Unlike when I was there, dragging him and his buddies onto the boat together spared them from the misery of the flood. My husband's body was submerged in the water all night, enduring until dawn as the heavy rain showed no sign of stopping. He simply couldn't take it anymore. Jake, driven by fear of death, tightened his grip around his neck. It was even more unbearable for him. 5, not to mention the various obstacles underwater and the physical injuries inflicted as the floodwaters swept him along. Submerging in icy water dulls the sensation of pain. The body gradually grows numb as well. To survive, the husband chose to save himself this time, leaving his buddy behind. His buddy was no fool either. When urged to let go and be pushed onto the tree trunk, he stubbornly refused. "Without my legs, if I can't hold on up there, it's certain death. You're my sworn brother. You can't just abandon loyalty. Besides, you're half responsible for my legs. If you had talked me out of it back then, would I have ended up like this?" The husband told Alara to hold her brother tight. Alara turned her face away from them. She told her brother about how her husband had been toying with her, yet her brother refused to believe that her husband was such a scoundrel. He even scolded her for tarnishing her husband's good reputation with false accusations. Her husband had no choice but to pry his friend's arm open with his hands. Before the other guy could even react, he passed out and sank into the water. Jake called out repeatedly, but her husband remained unresponsive. She watched helplessly as she was about to sink into the floodwaters with her husband. He yelled for his sister to pull him up. When she didn't respond, he released his grip on his husband's neck and grabbed for the log. At that very moment, his husband sprang up, shoved him away, grabbed the tree trunk, and climbed to safety. Jake was swept away by the flood, still cursing his husband for being disloyal. Watching him drift away, The husband let out a long sigh of relief. Jake's parents, like Alara, believed it was the husband's fault. They not only expected the husband to take care of Jake, but also to provide for Jake's wife and children. He couldn't bear to lose face, so he agreed. After Jake died, Alara became his wife again. That's what you call family. With family, you don't need to be as formal as you would with strangers. After drifting for a while, my husband's hero complex kicked in again. We encountered a mother and her 2 children calling for help, without a second thought. He tried to get them onto that small log. Alara stopped him. He lashed out at Alara. We're neighbors. What's the harm in helping each other? Everyone needs a hand sometimes. It's normal to ask for help. I'm doing this to bring blessings to our family. Why can't you understand that? Alara was momentarily stunned. Even a drowning man would try to save others instead of himself. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. All right. I don't want to end up dead because of you. Just like my brother did, the mother and her 2 children pleaded desperately. We're light as a feather. We won't be any trouble. Her husband's face darkened as he turned and scolded. You're always so eager to eat, but when it comes to helping someone, you make it so difficult. Step aside. Joran, am determined to be the good Samaritan today. He was strong, but Alara held onto the tree trunk for dear life. Gripping it with all her might, her husband pounded her head relentlessly. The heavy rain blurred her vision. Alara wiped her eyes, unsure whether it was blood or rain clouding her sight. Her husband seized the moment and pushed her into the raging floodwaters. The mother and her 2 children desperately clung to the tree trunk, holding on for dear life. The tree trunk began sinking before their eyes. As 3 pairs of eyes turned and fixed their gaze upon the husband, he consciously slid off the tree trunk, holding onto it while his body remained submerged. Moving forward through the water, ended up receiving 3 nice guy cards from 3 people. The heavy rain showed no sign of stopping. Instead, it intensified. My daughter and I were cooking hot pot, leisurely enjoying the meal. My husband was submerged in the water, dizzy and disoriented, starving to the point of seeing white. He had spent the first half of the night exercising with Alara, draining most of his strength. The latter half was spent escaping the torrential rain, exhausting what little energy he had left. Then he encountered a massive whirlpool in the floodwaters. The mother and her 2 children, fighting for survival, had their weakened husband push them toward a cluster of floating debris ahead. Desperate to stay alive, the husband mustered his last ounce of strength to shove them toward the floating wreckage. They grabbed several pieces of foam board, pieced together a makeshift raft, and finally caught their breath. This was only the first day of the torrential downpour. They thought they could just stay put and wait for rescue. Little did they know, the whole world was being pummeled by torrential rain. The rescuers themselves were in peril. How could they possibly come to their aid in time, starving beyond endurance? Her husband picked up a pear from the water and started devouring it. This particular area happened to have an abundance of pear trees. It was enough to fill your stomach, but it couldn't keep the hunger at bay. My husband, ever the kind soul, overheard someone say they wished they could snag that cake floating in the distance, volunteered to row over and scoop it up for them to eat, encountered several whirlpools along the way, nearly getting sucked in. My husband still refuses to change his ways. Firmly believe that good deeds bring good fortune. He even gave up his own foam board for the father and son stranded on a treetop in the distance to sit on. Clutching the treetop, he waited for the storm to pass. Everything edible that had been salvaged from the floodwaters was gone. The downpour continued relentlessly, as if the sky had split open and was pouring water. The water is rising. My husband braved the storm to call me, but in such a downpour, there was no signal. Looking around, all I could see was the endless surge of floodwaters. In my past life, I too was stunned by such a sight and felt profound despair. I begged him, for our daughter's sake, to take her to the city for refuge. Does he now feel the same helplessness I felt back then? Before the next, greater flood arrives, he seized the moment and leaped onto a floating log occupied by small animals. The chickens and ducks did not flee despite being startled. In the face of a flood, all lives are equal. Yet to humans, one's own life matters most, driven by ravenous hunger. The man grabbed a live chicken, wrung its neck, plucked its feathers, and devoured it raw. Meanwhile, the surviving ducks and chickens clung to the floating debris, fighting for their lives. Yet he didn't hoard these desperate creatures solely for himself. When he encountered others with starvation gleaming in their eyes, he generously shared his grim sustenance with them, got rejected with the nice guy card again and again. Made it to the 3rd day of the torrential downpour. Eating raw meat will naturally upset your stomach. Many people were doubled over in pain from his excessive generosity. The biting cold from the heavy rain left everyone shivering uncontrollably. Most of those who drifted alongside my husband perished. The survivors, as wives and mothers, confronted my husband. Did you deliberately give us raw meat, hoping we would die? Are you a murderer? My husband clasped his hands and pleaded his case. I honestly had no idea that eating raw meat could kill someone. I ate it too. What else could I do? It's not like I could just starve. People who are absolutely furious don't listen to reason. 5. I think you did that on purpose. The storm killed them, but there's not a shred of evidence. Don't let the murderer get away. They seized the husband and together threw him into the raging floodwaters. The relentless downpour weighed heavily on everyone's hearts. They desperately needed an outlet to vent their emotions, just to survive the immediate catastrophe. My husband is soaking in the flood, still completely clueless. Why do these people change their attitudes in the blink of an eye? They have zero decency as human beings. He's submerged in the flood, desperately reaching out for someone to pull him to safety. He kept insisting to everyone that he wasn't a murderer. Everyone stood by coldly, watching him struggle in the floodwaters. Floodwater choked his lungs, and he coughed violently. Another gulp of murky water flooded into his throat. Along with the floodwater came a host of microorganisms, particularly a common local parasite known as the horsehair worm, but he couldn't afford to worry about that. I answered with a yes. Instinct drove him to grab onto anything that floated. Even then, he was still too proud to admit defeat, clutching at anything that floated by, no matter how useless. Meanwhile, I stayed at home with my daughter, quietly marveling at the eerie spectacle created by the heavy rainstorm. Lulled by the sound of the rain, I fell into a deep sleep. He had no choice but to grasp at anything within reach, struggling to survive in the relentless downpour. I couldn't even close my eyes at night, afraid that with one wrong move, I'd be swept away by the floodwaters. Made it to the 5th day of the torrential rain. He was so exhausted his eyelids were fighting to stay open. When hungry or thirsty, he drank a mouthful of rainwater mixed with floodwater. He waited hopelessly for the flood to recede. On the 6th day, the aftereffects of drinking too much flood-tainted rainwater set in. He began suffering from diarrhea and vomiting. His body grew feverishly hot as hypothermia set in. He plunged into the floodwaters and lost consciousness. By sheer luck, the torrents swept him into the city, where a couple rescuing people by boat after the storm found him. The couple turned him over and recognized who he was. They shook him awake and asked, "Where's your wife?" Caught off guard, the husband replied, "She got swept away in the flood. No idea if she made it." The two men exchanged a glance. The man forced the husband's head underwater and held it there until the bubbles stopped rising. They had just rowed away. Their public statement was, the husband abandoned his wife and daughter for another woman, and heaven could not tolerate his actions. So it took him away, unlike in the previous life, where upon seeing the couple's boat capsize, they immediately pulled them aboard, providing clothes and food. They actually did this for the sake of the shop. My husband didn't go to ask for the shop back, Alara did, and not just once. It left the couple feeling uneasy, and they repeatedly asked me to confirm whether we had given them the shop. Of course I said yes, and even wrote them a handwritten guarantee. But there's always the chance that my husband, in a moment of desperation, might be swayed by his wife's persuasion and change his mind. The couple kept this matter in their thoughts. This time, taking advantage of this rare opportunity, we'll settle it once and for all. After the rainstorm subsided, the government deployed massive manpower and resources to launch rescue operations. However, the heavy rainfall persisted for an exceptionally long duration. Many people caught in the storm succumbed to hypothermia and perished. Very few survived beyond 3 days, let alone those who survived for more than 7 days. It's practically a miracle. Alara's family, having lost both their children, wanted to confront me and demand I provide for them. Before they could come after me, other grieving families cornered them at home. My husband died, and the 7-year prison sentence from the public prosecution case ended with his death. However, the civil compensation claims will not be terminated due to his passing. I had already divorced him before the incident occurred. The liability for compensation falls on him. The money he gave to Alara's family ended up flowing out again through this very method. Alara's parents want to sue me to reclaim the properties and stores that belong to my husband. They also claimed that my husband and I were not divorced when the car was borrowed. When I presented the divorce agreement, the court ruled that I didn't owe any compensation. I added this clause back when we were finalizing the divorce agreement, but my husband just wanted to get things done quickly for someone else and didn't even read the agreement. Alara's parents left in disgrace. Then I turned around and sold the shop that belonged to the couple. The couple took the written guarantee and recording I provided and sued me in court, yet they didn't approach me promptly to handle the property transfer procedures, so the verbal gift transfer I offered wasn't legally valid. They stood by and watched me and my daughter die in their past life, and now my husband is gone too. Why should I bother being nice to them anymore, after reclaiming what was rightfully mine? I enrolled my daughter in the best kindergarten. I went back to my old profession. I started paying into my social security and aimed to buy an apartment in Shanghai within 5 years. The fruits I stored before the storm brought me a substantial income. Combined with the 1.5 million from selling my shop, I was able to buy a 50 square meter storefront in Shanghai. Life is finally back on track. Story 2. On orientation day, all beast-taming freshmen gathered to select their spirit beasts. In my past life, The class valedictorian chose a nine-tailed silver fox with the purest bloodline. As the bottom-ranked student, I got stuck with a mongrel brown bear of the most diluted lineage. Soon after, the great frost descended, and through our bonded contract, I gained my bear's innate skill, cold resistance. The nine-tailed fox chosen by the class monitor froze to death on the first day of the apocalypse before it could mature, consumed by jealousy. The class monitor conspired with other students to kill and cannibalize both me and the brown bear. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day of spirit beast selection. When the monitor chose the brown bear before I could, I knew they'd been reborn too. Little did she know, the brown bear was reborn alongside me. I barely scraped into the beast taming department of Goa University with the lowest entrance exam score. On orientation day, our homeroom teacher brought 30 spirit beast cubs to class for students to choose their lifelong companions based on academic rankings. As the class stunts with rock-bottom grades, I had to wait till last for my pick. When everyone had made their choices, all that remained for me was a brown bear with the most diluted bloodline. Just as I reached to pick up the bear, a girl's voice suddenly shouted, "Wait, Loretta." The top student who'd finished selecting her spirit beast first stood up clutching a snow-white fox kit with nearly translucent fur and rushed toward me. Without explanation, Loretta shoved the white fox into my arms, then snatched up the lone brown bear from the crate as if afraid I'd take it back. "You take the white fox, I'll have the brown bear." The entire class gaped in shock at this exchange. Even the homeroom teacher frowned disapprovingly. 1. Everyone knew this white fox cub had the purest bloodline among the newly arrived spirit beasts, with 80% ancient lineage purity, far superior to some common brown bear with merely 20% bloodline purity. The difference between them is like night and day. No one could understand why Loretta would give up the white fox to choose a brown bear instead. The teacher urged, "Loretta, choosing a spirit companion is no joking matter. It determines your future potential." Quickly swap back with Fiona. Biting her lip with glistening eyes, Loretta declared selflessly, "Fiona needs this white fox more than I do. My grades are excellent. I'll progress quickly with any spirit beast, but Fiona's cultivation talent is average. If she's stuck with such a mixed-blood brown bear, her entire future will be ruined. I insist on exchanging spirit beasts with her." Loretta's words drew thunderous applause from the entire class. Everyone was deeply moved by Loretta's selfless spirit. The homeroom teacher praised Loretta. "Cultivation begins with the purity of one's heart. Your flawless benevolence will carry you far, even if your spirit beast isn't the strongest." Then she frowned at me. "Fiona, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and thank Loretta." I blinked and extended the white fox forward. "No need to trade with me. I actually really like that brown bear." Loretta's eyes flickered with unease as she clutched the brown bear tighter. The way she frowned while hugging the little bear made it seem like I'd bullied her. She spoke softly, "Fiona, you don't need to test me. I genuinely want to trade with you." I wasn't buying her act and insisted, "Really, no need." Before I could finish speaking, something suddenly bit the webbing of my right hand. Looking down, I saw the little white fox had bitten me, with crimson beads of blood welling up from the wound. The fox then extended its tongue, giving my skin tingling little licks. Before I knew it, the white fox had initiated a pact with me on its own. And not just any pact, a blood oath binding our lives together. My classmates stared at me, erupting in mocking jeers. So Fiona wasn't refusing Loretta's offer out of ignorance. She was putting on this whole act, pretending to return the white fox while secretly forming a contract, terrified Loretta might change her mind. Never seen someone try to have their cake and eat it too like this. After forming a contract with the white fox, it drowsily closed its eyes and fell into a deep slumber. Listening to the murmurs around me, my aged face flushed crimson with embarrassment. Little did they know, I genuinely despised this useless white fox in my hands. Forced into a contract by the little white fox, I could only endure the scornful glances from others and return to my seat in bitter resignation. Only I knew this seemingly coveted white fox would become a useless burden in half a month. No, Loretta knew it too. The moment she abandoned the white fox to compete with me for the brown bear, I realized she was reborn, just like me. In our past life, Loretta chose the white fox, leaving me bound to the unwanted brown bear by default. Little did we know, the frigid apocalypse arrived just half a month later. The entire planet plunged into absolute frost at -50 degrees, turning Earth into a giant freezer. The noble-blooded white fox required a longer growth cycle compared to other spirit beasts with mixed lineages. When the frozen apocalypse came, the white fox was still just a milk-dependent little runt, froze to death on the very day the apocalypse arrived. My brown bear, nurtured with meticulous care, has reached adolescence and awakened the shared talent ability. In -50-degree temperatures, it shared its innate skill cold resistance with me. I became the last person who'd fear freezing in this apocalyptic world. I joined the school's supernatural squad on a supply run, during which Loretta repeatedly tried to seduce the brown bear into breaking our contract to become her familiar, only to be rejected each time. Humiliated by constant rejection, Loretta spread rumors that consuming the bear's flesh could grant cold resistance. During another expedition, Loretta conspired with others to slaughter both me and the bear in this cannibalistic apocalypse. We became mere provisions for their survival. I gazed sorrowfully at the brown bear in Loretta's possession. In my past life, we'd shared an unbreakable bond to comrades who'd trust each other with our lives. Never did I imagine she'd steal him from me in this incarnation. Losing my innate skill, cold resistance doesn't bother me much, but my heart aches thinking whether the brown bear gets enough food and warm shelter with Loretta. As I was spacing out while staring at the bear, its beady eyes suddenly met mine. To my surprise, the toy-sized cub deliberately winked at me twice, not once. Not thrice, precisely 2 blinks. My heart swelled with joy. 2 winks had been our secret signal in our past life together. 2 blinks, that's his way of telling me everything's fine. From how I'd tried to keep the brown bear around earlier, he'd realized I was reborn too. Now he's using the same method to show me he's also reliving this life. At this thought, I couldn't help but shoot Loretta a "you're on your own" look. Don't let that dopey brown bear appearance fool you. This one's a full-blown honey-coated menace. My eyes locked intensely with the brown bear's when suddenly, tiny warm lips closed around my fingertip. Looking down, I saw my ridiculously pampered white fox. That gorgeous but utterly useless little troublemaker had woken up. "I'm not useless," a voice rang out, dripping with aristocratic pride yet still carrying the sweet lilt of infancy. "And you, woman, don't you dare look at that dark-skinned freak." I poked the little white fox with my other hand and whispered, "Was that you talking?" The fox gave a haughty sniff and lazily rolled over in my arms. I realized I shouldn't call him a white fox. Yen Master would be more fitting. "My name's Lionel, woman, though you may call me Yen Master if you prefer." I poked his forehead. "Listen here, you little brat. Who taught you to be such an edgelord?" At the lectern, our homeroom teacher began demonstrating how to draw a contract sigil on the blackboard. Most familiar contracts are initiated by humans. Beastkin are inherently prideful, while their yen are relatively docile. Only a rare few will ever propose a contract upon encountering a human they favor. After the briefing, my classmates began attempting to form contracts with their spirit beasts, everyone except me. Who would have believed I'd get forcibly courted by a noble white fox if they hadn't seen it themselves? "Lionel, why did you initiate the contract with me?" Lionel wrinkled his nose. "That woman reeks," I teased. "Loretta's the campus belle. Countless guys are literally chasing her scent." Lionel scoffed. "They're blind. Her soul stinks." "What about me then?" I joked, poking fun at him. The white fox in my arms nuzzled deeper into the crook of my leg, its tone slightly awkward. "Not bad, sweet." Suddenly I understood why Lionel forced that contract on me, like shoving a perfectly good cupcake into a pile of shit. Who wouldn't be terrified? When bored, I'd scratch Lionel under the chin. The Arctic fox's fur felt amazingly soft and thick like a giant cotton candy puff. I alternated between stroking his ears and squishing his belly, but ultimately couldn't resist that irresistibly fluffy, tantalizing tail. Too, they say you should never touch a fox's tail, but he's just a kid. So of course we can't let him off the hook. That fluffy white fox tail was practically begging to be squished by Mom. The moment my hand brushed against his tail, Lionel froze like he'd been shocked, his pale skin flushing pink beneath the snowy fur. "Stop that, woman, you pervert." She looked exactly like a bashful bride who'd been taken advantage of. I blinked and awkwardly withdrew my hand. Then I turned the tables. "Kid, get your mind out of the gutter." Lionel's eyes welled up with tears of frustration before he huffily turned away, completely ignoring me. In the classroom, Loretta was the first to complete the contract formation. A flicker of triumph crossed her delicate features as she initiated the pact with the brown bear. The contract formation enveloped the bear, spinning rapidly. Within the formation, the brown bear channeled its spiritual energy and stealthily altered 2 strokes of the magic circle. The formation silently transformed from an equal contract into a master-servant pact. Only now, the brown bear became the master, and Loretta the servant. This was an ancient formation we discovered together in ruins during our training journey. Never imagined the brown bear would now use it to trap Loretta. The brown bear who just sealed the deal with Loretta gave me a triumphant glance, so I stealthily hid my hand under the table and gave him a thumbs up. "That's why you should never cross an honest man, woman, you wicked woman." A petulant voice exploded in my ears. "Oh, there goes my tsunder, a little lordling with his middle schooler arrogance and paper-thin pride. How am I being bad?" I absent-mindedly pinched his squishy cheeks, surprisingly soft despite their lack of flesh. "You touched my tail, then had the nerve to flirt with another man, some sunburnt freak." Lionel's voice grew increasingly plaintive. I let out an almost imperceptible sigh. Just another jealous little lordling throwing a tantrum. After all classmates completed their contracts, the homeroom teacher distributed cultivation resources to each student. I kept 1 spirit stone for myself and fed the rest to Lionel as treats. Lionel crunched through 19 spirit stones like they were potato chips. I hadn't even left the classroom when all my spirit stones were already depleted. My classmates stared at me with bewildered expressions. Has Fiona lost her mind? She fed an entire week's cultivation resources to that white fox. Was she even paying attention in class? Doesn't she know spirit beasts have slow growth cycles? You can't rush their feeding. Those spirit stones were mainly meant for our own cultivation. What a waste giving that contract to the white fox. Even the homeroom teacher frowned. Some students should remember spirit stones are allocated in limited quantities each month. The school won't provide extras if you waste them. I knew the teacher was talking about me without naming names. I replied obediently, I understand, teacher. To be honest, I was extremely generous with cultivation resources toward the brown bear in my past life. While most students split resources with their spirit beasts at a 4:1 ratio, I always divided them equally with my brown bear. I believed that since we were partners, we should share everything 50-50. Yet even with the brown bear, I was never as lavish as with the white fox. He got 90% while I kept just 10%. Not only did my classmates think I'd lost my mind, I was starting to believe it myself. It suddenly hit me: the white fox and I were bound by a blood pact. With ordinary equal contracts, neither party is affected if the other dies. But a blood pact is different. It's a life-for-life bond. If the white fox froze to death on the apocalypse's first day like last time, I'd be a goner too. So now, this ancestor's life is more precious than anything else. For the remaining time, find your own spots to practice, everyone. Carrying the white fox, I walked out when Loretta suddenly blocked my path with half her body. In a whisper only I could hear, she said, I know you've been reborn too, this lifetime. It's my turn to contract the brown bear and master frost resistance. I curled my lips. Then you'd better make sure to survive. Loretta's eyes gleamed with triumph. With my grizzly, survival's guaranteed. As for you two losers, enjoy freezing to death on doomsday's first dawn. The Arctic fox in my arms lazily cracked an eyelid to glance around. He lifted his rump and blasted Loretta with an earth-shattering fart. Loretta's composure shattered instantly as she shrieked and stumbled backwards several steps. Fiona, are you insane? Get that stinking fox away from me. TCH, I chuckled, cradling the white fox as I turned to leave. Beast rearing was a bottomless pit. Procuring vast amounts of spirit stones became an impossible dilemma. As I absent-mindedly tugged at the white fox's fur, a sudden realization struck me. In my previous life before the apocalypse, the media had exposed a small spiritual vein. Judging by the timeline, that vein should still remain undiscovered, with the white fox in tow. I immediately hit the road toward the spiritual vein without a moment's delay. When I arrived at the approximate location marked for my past life, to my surprise, Loretta had already beaten me there. As the heiress of a prominent family, Loretta's connections and resources far surpassed anything an ordinary person like me could muster. Standing at the periphery of the spiritual vein, I could only watch helplessly as she directed 20-some burly men in harvesting its energy. The white fox nestled in my arms, watching as one dazzling translucent spirit stone after another was mined. Swallowing hard with longing eyes, I covered the fox's eyes abruptly. Don't look, cub. These spirit stones are low grade. Mom will take you somewhere better to forage. Carrying the fox, I kept glancing back every few steps. Just as we were about to leave, a delighted voice suddenly echoed in my mind. Sister, is that you? I halted mid-step. Bear. Then asked, you've learned telepathy? That Loretta woman really splurged on me. Used a soul-waking herb to grant me mental communication. The brown bear added, Sis, why don't you take the white fox somewhere to rest first? I'll call you when we've mined all the spirit stones. As our mental conversation with the bear concluded, I snapped back to reality to find an enormous, exquisite fox face studying me with suspicion. Lionel planted his front paws on my shoulders, his proud fox face mere inches from kissing me. Warm breath brushed my face, none of the musky wild fox scent, just an indescribable hint of delicate fragrance. What are you doing? Lionel glared at me indignantly. Woman, how dare you cheat on me? I grabbed the fox by the scruff of his neck with one hand, pulling him off me while giving his fluffy cheeks a disciplinary pinch with the other. Watch your language, brat, Lionel sniffled, his voice tinged with genuine hurt. I'm not wrong. Your soul reeks of bear musk. It's that dark-skinned one, isn't it? I arched an eyebrow. This little fox had quite the nose on him. Lionel continued his accusation. In our white fox clan, whoever we form a blood pact with becomes our lifelong mate. You can't go sneaking around with that brown bear. My cheeks flushed slightly. Little brat, what do you know about mates at your age? Lionel's eyes welled up with unshed tears as he flailed his paws in an exaggerated air-swimming motion. I leaned forward and stuck my tongue out at him. My damp, pointy muzzle tapped against my cheek. Before I could react, the culprit quickly withdrew its head and whispered, I kissed you, so you're my mate now. This spot's mine. No one else gets to kiss here. I stood frozen, my lips twitching involuntarily. Did I just get flirted with by a baby Arctic fox? I left the spirit vein to the brown bear while carrying Lionel back to the car. We cooled off with AC and munched on watermelon. then found a documentary to play on the center console screen. The film was so dull it had me nodding off in no time. When I woke again, dusk had settled in. The remote mountain woods held not a single light, swallowed whole by the soundless dark. Right then, the brown bear's message came through. "Sis, hurry over, they've all left," I answered. Looking down, I saw Lionel glaring at me with wary accusation. I instinctively felt guilty. Genuinely experiencing the awkwardness of a cheating spouse caught red-handed, I explained. "We weren't talking about anything else." Lionel turned away sharply. "No explanations. I won't listen. I'm not speaking to you all day, under the night sky." I carried the white fox in my arms, step by step approaching the ley line's location. Just as the brown bear had told me, the area around the ley line was deserted, leaving only a concealment array to hide its presence. The white fox watched me approach the ley line. Though curious about my purpose, it stubbornly kept its earlier vow of silence. Pouting with suppressed curiosity, I paced around the magic formation when suddenly the brown bear dispelled it. Poking its head out to look at me, now able to speak, it waved at me and called out, "Sis, come quick." The white fox in my arms bared its teeth at the bear the moment it spotted him, curling up defensively with a vicious snarl. I quickly covered the fox's muzzle and shot the bear an apologetic smile. The white fox is a bit mischievous. The brown bear led the way ahead. "It's all right, sis. Don't be mad at your little brother." I covered the white fox's mouth, but his voice exploded in my mind. "Holy shit, he's a two-faced snake, a dark-skinned schemer. Let me go. I'm gonna kill him. I swear I'll kill him today. Fiona, don't stop me." No man can tolerate seeing his woman cheat right in front of him. How dare you hook up with this two-faced bitch right under my nose while I'm still breathing? What kind of man hides behind women? Let me go, I'll settle this with him once and for all. So noisy, how noisy, way too loud. Glancing at the faint spiritual energy rippling around the brown bear, I loosened my grip with a soft snap, letting the white fox leap to the ground. Lionel, sprawled on the ground, turned back to stare at me in disbelief. He clearly hadn't expected me to actually let go. He inched toward the brown bear at a snail's pace of 0.008 meters per second. Glancing backward every few steps, on his fourth hesitant look back, he shot me one last uncertain glance. "Not even gonna stop me? What if I beat your precious lover to death?" 3. I glanced at the spiritual energy radiating from the brown bear. After gorging on spirit stones all afternoon, its power level was easily 50 times greater than the white fox's. At this point, it was anyone's guess who'd kill whom. I smiled playfully at him. "Relax, show me your warrior spirit. If you take him down, you'll be the only one in my heart from now on." The white fox nervously scraped its claws against the ground, visibly tempted by my words, but after stealing another glance at the bear's intimidating aura, it sheepishly retreated to curl up by my feet again. "All right, since you're genuinely remorseful this time, I'll let this little rendezvous slide, but don't let it happen again." Me. The brown bear divided the spirit stones from the ley line into 3 piles. It kept a tiny pile for itself, leaving one small pile and another massive mound the size of a hill. "Sis, I'll just keep these." Lionel stared at the massive pile of spirit stones with greedy eyes, his jealous voice echoing in my mind. "Woman, that dark-skinned fellow is being awfully generous with you." The brown bear pointed at a small pile and said, "Big sis, this should be enough for your cultivation." Then gesturing toward the enormous heap, he added, "Give all those to little brother." Holy shit. Lionel's dramatic voice rang out again. "Woman, that dark-skinned guy isn't into you." "I think he's into me." I flicked Lionel's forehead. "Is your brain wired for romance? You see flirting everywhere." Lionel still looked defiant, so I murmured, "Do you still want those spirit stones?" He instantly behaved. I looked at the brown bear with concern. "I've emptied this place. Will Loretta hurt you?" The bear shook its head. "Sis, that woman obeys my every word now." The next day, Loretta stared dumbfounded at the depleted spirit vein, stammering, "Why you used up all these spirit stones." The bear nodded. "This puny little spirit vein, barely a snack for me." The brown bear continued, "Didn't you say I needed to awaken the innate skill frost resistance within 2 weeks? I just tried sensing it, and I think I can feel the barrier to awakening." Hearing this, Loretta's expression softened slightly, but she still couldn't help grumbling about how the bear had devoured the entire spirit vein yet only gained a minuscule amount of spiritual energy. "At least you can awaken it, but your bloodline is truly inferior. All that consumption for such a pitiful energy gain." The brown bear scoffed. "If you had issues with my lineage, you shouldn't have chosen me in the first place. I never begged to be selected. Now I'm under so much pressure that my innate abilities might not even awaken properly." Loretta knew how invaluable the brown bear's innate skills would become when the polar apocalypse arrived in half a month. Panicking at the thought of the bear's abilities failing to manifest, she blurted, "Don't stress, that's not what I meant at all. If I cared about bloodlines, I wouldn't have chosen you." "Fine," the bear conceded grudgingly, "but I'll need spirit stones for cultivation. Have someone deliver more, nothing excessive. Just 10 truckloads will suffice." Loretta gritted her teeth so hard her gums bled. 10 truckloads, the brown bear scoffed. Is that a lot? Get me 10 truckloads, and I might just awaken an advanced talent skill. 10-mile cold resistance, protecting everyone within 10 kilometers from freezing. 10 kilometers, Loretta's eyes gleamed with naked avarice. If the Ice Age apocalypse came, she could make an entire 10-kilometer radius immune to cold. At that point, wouldn't she basically be the Ice Queen of the apocalypse? Loretta gritted her teeth. Fine, just wait, 10 truckloads it is. I'll get them for you. When the apocalypse comes, money is just worthless paper. Though Loretta came from a powerful family, everyone dismissed her warnings about the coming Ice Age apocalypse as a joke. They found it even more ridiculous that she wanted to waste 10 truckloads of spirit stones to awaken a useless frost-resistant trait in some low-bloodline spirit beast. Cut off from family support. Loretta had to sell everything she'd ever been given in the family home, cars, all her designer handbags and jewelry. When I saw Loretta at school again, she was wearing the same outdated outfits, eating nothing but plain steamed buns with chili sauce for lunch. It was clear she'd poured every last penny into the brown bear's care, but she'd never know. After selling all her worldly possessions for 10 truckloads of spirit stones, the brown bear kept only a tiny fraction for herself. The remaining 99% all ended up in mine and the white fox's pockets. I only used 1 or 2 spirit stones occasionally to practice cultivation, just so I wouldn't forget how to wield spiritual energy. All the remaining spirit stones I gave to the white fox. The white fox devoured spirit stones at an alarming rate before falling into deep slumber. Any stone placed near him would instantly be drained by a powerful suction force, crumbling into dust. Just the spiritual energy feedback from the white fox's cultivation had already made me several times stronger than my previous incarnation. As for Loretta, her current spiritual energy couldn't even match the strength of other students in class. For the sake of the brown bear, she didn't use a single spirit stone on herself. The brown bear kept gaslighting her. If I failed to awaken my talents because you skimped on 1 spirit stone, don't say I didn't warn you. Everyone said Loretta was washed up. From the very first day when Loretta bizarrely chose the weakest, least talented brown bear, people thought she'd lost her marbles. Loretta scoffed at the gossip. What do you know? Just wait, you'll see I was right all along. The day before the apocalypse, in the sweltering summer heat, temperatures suddenly plummeted overnight, and snow began falling across the globe. At first, people joked about the June snowfall, saying it must signify some great injustice. But by noon the next day, global temperatures had dropped to -20 degrees Celsius, and unease began creeping in. The weather is so abnormal. Could this be a sign of some impending disaster? The snow keeps falling harder and harder, with no sign of stopping. Fearing potential accidents during the snowstorm, the school has recalled all students to campus. In the girls' dormitory, Loretta shivered as she bundled herself tightly in a quilt. Having neglected her cultivation for some time, her spiritual energy had dwindled to barely more than an ordinary person's. Her nose was red and raw from the cold, constantly dabbing at it with tissues. Brown bear, has your innate talent awakened yet? The brown bear lumbered about, lazily gnawing on spirit stones. After 10 days, its frame had expanded several sizes, now entering its adolescent phase. Take it easy, almost there. A growing suspicion crept into Loretta's heart. She probably thought, in her past life she was just a penniless girl. Even if she explored ruins everywhere, the spirit stones she could provide the brown bear would be far fewer than the resources she's supplying in this lifetime. How come the brown bear awakened its talents in the previous life, but seems to be struggling in this one? Brown bear, are you keeping something from me? The brown bear feigned anger. After all my hard training for your sake, you'd actually doubt me now. I thought even if my innate abilities aren't fully awakened yet, I could at least share some warmth with you. But fine, take these spirit stones back. I don't need them. My thick fur will keep me alive without your precious stones. Loretta panicked immediately. I was wrong. This is all my fault. I just spoke in anger. Please keep using the spirit stones. Nothing matters more than awakening your innate abilities. I'll let you off this time. The brown bear snorted coldly before resuming gnawing on the spirit stones. Between bites of spirit stones, the bear spared a wisp of warmth for Loretta, just the slightest warmth. He'd hate for Loretta to freeze to death before the real apocalypse arrived tomorrow. That'd ruin all the fun. Feeling the faint warmth envelop her, Loretta stopped doubting the bear's intentions. After forming a beast contract, both human and beast cultivate spiritual energy while reciprocally transferring 1/10 of their gains to each other. The spiritual energy the brown bear transferred to Loretta remained consistently feeble, proving it had absorbed scarcely any power. Little did Loretta know, this wasn't due to the bear's poor absorption, but because their master-servant contract allowed the bear to arbitrarily decide how much energy to share. In another dorm room, I curled under blankets watching movies on a projection screen. Every spirit stone in the room had turned to dust, yet the white fox lying on the cashmere rug still hadn't awakened. Unbeknownst to anyone, the fox had already shed its juvenile form, growing into the full stature of a mature spirit beast. I stepped off the bed and checked the fox's breathing. Its faint pulse still lingered. The wall clock inched toward midnight as the true apocalypse loomed in this life. The white fox probably won't freeze to death on the very first day of the apocalypse. Boom, the midnight bell tolled. Global temperatures plummeted precipitously once again. The thermometer indoors shows the room temperature has plunged to -50 degrees. As a cultivator with the white fox's spiritual feedback, my chi reserves make this level of cold negligible. Outside, the snowfall intensifies, piling up as high as a full story. The homeroom teacher initiated a roll call in the group chat for status updates. The school stands ready to dispatch rescue teams for any struggling students. Due to the extreme cold weather and staff shortages, the school urgently recruited volunteers. I signed up as a volunteer to distribute supplies to students in various dorms. When I reached Loretta's dorm, I deliberately walked past it. As classmates began confirming receipt of supplies in the group chat, Loretta added me, "What's going on? Where are my supplies?" I immediately posted several photos in the group chat, clear evidence of Loretta stockpiling massive supplies from the supermarket in advance. I said, "The school announced critical supply shortages. With this heavy snow showing no signs of stopping anytime soon, shouldn't we reserve these resources for those who need them most?" Classmates started flooding the group chat with comments. Did our class monitor get some insider information? Why else would she hoard so much food and daily necessities? With all these supplies already, how dare they still compete with us for resources? Isn't she the class leader? Why can't she share the supplies with us? Loretta suddenly found herself being morally judged from a high ground. Loretta tagged me again. "Stop pretending. You knew about the coming Ice Age apocalypse too, and hoarded just as much. Why don't you share your portion?" I handed out 2 empty instant noodle boxes. "I have no idea what frozen apocalypse you're talking about. Everyone knows my family's poor. I only bought so many instant noodles because they were on sale at the mall, and I've already distributed them all to my classmates." The teacher confirmed in the group chat. The 10 packs of instant noodles everyone received were all distributed by Fiona from her own supplies. The classmates started making sarcastic remarks again. "Did everyone see that? Fiona's way more generous than you." Loretta couldn't win the argument and went silent in the group chat, but she'd already slid into my DMs. "Fiona, what good is your reputation now? That useless white fox you keep must have frozen to death by now." Holding the sleeping white fox's face, I sent Loretta a video. "Is this the pig-like sleeping fox you were talking about?" Though its eyes were closed in the video, the deep, rhythmic breathing left no doubt this fox was living its absolute best life. "No way. You must have pre-recorded this footage. That useless fox grows so slowly and is so delicate it must have frozen to death by now." I yawned and didn't reply to Loretta's message. Despite my spiritual barrier, the bitter cold still chilled me to the bone. As I rummaged through the closet for an extra blanket, a wave of warm spiritual energy suddenly enveloped me. This warmth felt intimately familiar. The comforting heat from Brown Bear's shared cold resistance ability. "Bear, how can you share your innate skill with me without a contract? Sis, I've successfully awakened 10-mile cold resistance." It suddenly dawned on me that the brown bear's innate ability was never just cold resistance, but rather 10-mile cold resistance. But in my previous life, my capabilities were ultimately limited. I simply didn't have enough spirit stones to fully awaken all of the bear's innate skills in such a short time. To protect me, the brown bear forcibly awakened its ability, resulting in only a watered-down version of cold resistance. I asked her with a cheerful smile, "How's Loretta doing?" The brown bear shared its vision with me, confident that the awakened brown bear would resist extreme cold. Loretta didn't bother buying extra blankets. Now she's huddled under a summer quilt, her face frozen purple and teeth chattering uncontrollably. Haven't you awakened yet?" The adolescent brown bear leaped onto the bed and with a single butt shove, sent Loretta tumbling to the floor. The impact between the icy floor and rigid flesh produced a sickening crack. Who knew how many bones were shattered? Loretta grimaced in agony, crying out through clenched teeth. "What the hell was that for?" The bear announced. "Got some good news for you. My awakening succeeded." Loretta's eyes lit up with excitement, completely forgetting the brown bear had just thrown her off the bed. "Hurry, share your skills with me now. I'm freezing to death." The brown bear snorted. "When did I ever agree to share anything with you?" Loretta shrieked hysterically. "I'm your master. I bankrupted myself spending all those spirit stones to awaken you. How dare you refuse to share with me? We've formed a pact. Even if you refuse to share, I can still wield your powers." Loretta frantically tried channeling the pack's magic to borrow the brown bear's abilities, only to realize she couldn't access its power at all. The bear sneered, "Open your eyes wide and see what kind of pact we've truly forged." Upon closer inspection, Loretta discovered 2 runic arrays had been tampered with. The brown bear's eyes flashed with contempt. "See this clearly. It's a master-servant contract. You think you're worthy of sharing my skills?" Loretta lay frozen on the ground. "You You've been reborn too. On the day the frigid apocalypse arrived, global temperatures were no longer being disclosed. Just like in the previous life, the power grid, water supply, and internet systems collapsed completely. That night, many never woke up again. 5 days later, complete chaos engulfed the school as desperate students began raiding other dorms for supplies. Outside the door, several upperclassmen had me in their sights. Assessing my current strength, with the brown bear's frost guard protection and the white fox's spiritual energy boost, I realized even most teachers stood no chance against me now, even if they outnumber me. I'm not the least bit afraid. As the frantic knocking pounded at the door, spiritual energy gathered in my palms. Before I could strike, a tremendous force suddenly radiated outward from my chamber, just from the sounds alone. I could vividly picture the chaos unfolding outside, bodies tumbling in disarray. The white fox remained curled on the rug with closed eyes, while a voice born of divine consciousness projected outward through my room. A chilling yet commanding voice rang out, "Get out." The intruder scrambled away in panic. I stroked the white fox's head. "Lionel, are you waking up?" Some tried to break into Loretta's dorm too, but the brown bear drove them all away, thanks to the brown bear's presence. Loretta isn't dead yet, but she's hanging by a thread. She lay on the ground, the stench of broken bones oozing from her wounds. Each time she nearly passed out, the bear, conveniently answering nature's call, would drench her face in its reeking piss. The bear called it a gift, warm and fresh, just to keep you from freezing. Brown bears have excellent memories, and they hold grudges, drawing from his past life memories. He tracked down every last accomplice who had conspired with Loretta to murder us, ending them all with his fangs. The remaining people at school bore him no ill will, so the grizzly abandoned stealth and activated his 10-mile warmth ability. A divine warmth surged through everyone within the school grounds, as if blessed by celestial protection. Even Loretta, lying there awaiting death, finally experienced the comforting embrace of warmth. A scalding warmth surged through her body. What might have been a blessing to others became the very curse that hastened her life's ebb. Not just her bones, countless organs had been fractured in the earlier impact. The sub-zero temperatures had slowed their decay, freezing them in time. But now, abruptly thawed, like some half-defrosted microwave meal, Loretta's organs began their systemic collapse into putrefaction. She lay motionless on the ground, shifting slightly as if searching for a less agonizing position. Foul-smelling pus oozed slowly from her eye sockets, nostrils, ears, and the corners of her mouth. Her eyes remained wide open until the moment of death. 5. That morning, I awoke to an unusual warmth enveloping my body. As I opened my eyes, an enormous weight pressed down upon me from above. His chiseled face had sharp, narrow bone structure and well-defined features. Powerful arms cradled my head as he slightly lowered his gaze, revealing the tantalizing contours of his sculpted pectorals pressing down. His entire body radiated warmth like a living furnace. As I stirred slightly, those almond-shaped eyes fluttered open, revealing unnatural amber irises that held no trace of humanity. The familiar scent made me whisper tentatively, "Lionel." A smirk curled at the corner of his lips as he casually tossed the blanket aside, letting the chilly air brush against my skin. At the same time, his warm, intoxicating presence enveloped me, drawing me instinctively closer into his embrace. He shifted his weight, bracing his forearm against the bed as he hovered over me. My breath hitched as I gazed up at him, his sculpted abs taut with definition, his skin porcelain pale yet radiating raw strength. His waist-length hair cascaded like a waterfall, draping over my collarbone. A fluffy white tail swayed rhythmically back and forth. A magnetic, alluring voice murmured, "Miss me, woman, well." That single word woman confirmed it. This was definitely Lionel. I shot him a glare, finally decided to wake up. Ha! He let out a soft chuckle, featherlight and meltingly sweet to the ears. OMG, his voice is so adorably whiny. "I'm totally obsessed," he stated with certainty. "You are worried about me," I said. "Well, I can't very well wish for your death." He lowered his head and suddenly pecked my lips. "Still got that sharp tongue, woman." I covered my mouth in shock. "Lionel." "That was my first kiss." Lionel's grin widened. "Not your first. I've kissed you before. We sealed that deal long ago. The reason he took so long to wake up was because he was awakening his innate abilities. With his noble lineage, Lionel faced far greater challenges than other beasts in awakening his talents. But after all these days, he finally succeeded. Lionel, what's your awakened ability?" Lionel replied nonchalantly, "Enlarge." My eyes widened as my mind went to the gutter. "Big." I stole a furtive glance. It did seem sizable, but for a noble spirit beast of my lineage, awakening such a skill felt rather unconventional. A smug smirk played on Lionel's lips as he teased with mock seriousness. "Why so flushed, woman? Getting the wrong idea. I meant the range of my innate ability is vast." As we spoke, the snow outside had quietly ceased falling. The thick layers of clouds gradually dissipated, revealing the long-lost sun that bathed the earth in its warm glow. I heard an excited voice from the schoolyard. Look everyone, the sun's out. It doesn't feel as bitterly cold as before, thank goodness. The apocalypse is finally coming to an end. I heard Lionel's voice murmur, the white fox is an auspicious omen. My awakened innate ability is genesis of all things. Lionel's handsome face pressed against my ear, his warm breath gently caressing my neck, his fluffy tail brushed against my abdomen with playful insistence. Nuzzling like a spoiled pet, how will you reward me?